before the now 9/11.
What you say, resin?
Yeah. I built up like a bunch of resin from like the weed I was smoking for a while, and then and since I tend to save the stuff to smoke for a later date whenever I want to, I was going to save it for about till like about 3 months later. When 9/11 rolls around, they'll take a bunch of hits out of it.
Okay. Do you have a cam? I see nothing but black on your screen.
Yeah, I have a cam. I just don't have it. I just have it covered up, is all.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I should be working.
No, I'm not. I actually do have pants on. I can show you, by the way, if you want. Yeah, but
Yeah, maybe another day.
yeah.
Maybe when
I'm,
I'm
act-
feeling hornier.
yeah, I'm actually kind of watching the E3 uh, recap of Sony and Nintendo. I'm currently on Sony right now. I just got done through Microsoft. But I just gotta say, I just not too long ago, like I think yesterday it wasn't, that I was watching like the Young Turks' little bit on Watch Dogs. I gotta say, man, it's videos like this that make me strongly that seems to indicate to me that the Young Turks really don't understand reality.
Yeah, I can't really tolerate listening to the Young Turks for long. They're I listen to people when they have like an elite understanding of something, but the Young Turks they're just like normal people with opinions, kind of like right wing talk radio.
Well, they are opinions and they are points that I mostly agree with, but there are certain things that seem to indicate to me that they don't understand the state of things. So, like for example, they're a bit on Watch Dogs when they start talking about how there was this character model that resembled Trayvon Martin and shit like that. Well, they literally did not understand the fact that these character profiles and the characters models themselves are all completely randomly generated. Um,
Randomly generated, you say?
yeah, randomly generated names, randomly generated character models, and along with profiles, if you would, of those people that you can kind of look into on Watch Dogs. So but yeah, for some reason they thought that this was a deliberate thing on the creative on Ubisoft in terms of trying to create a character model of Trayvon Martin in there. Which, of course, if they did do it deliberately. It wouldn't surprise me more or less, but they would at least put forth some kind of a hint to it. But they certainly didn't.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Young Turks. I can only happen to see them when there's some kind of link, but don't really follow. I see no reason why I should.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of stopped following them after their whole race feeding with Trayvon Martin and shit. That stuff just pisses me off.
I have gotten quite a bit involved in the Trayvon Martin George Zimmerman debates, and it is interesting.
I hope we get that nigger up and shoots him again.
That was my dad, in case you didn't hear him.
So I understand. He has an opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, it's I kind of have an attraction to the taboo subjects, and I take positions that tend to be most taboo, and I sometimes wonder that if I have a bias toward the more contentious positions.
I tend to take the positions that are most defensible on a rational basis, really based on the evidence, but that's just me.
Yes, we all like to think that we have the highest opinion of our own reasonability,
Yeah.
the highest balance, the
That
best.
Kurt guy, the male one, he looks like his heart's gonna blow up one day. I mean, he like sweats just by talking. That's fucking crazy. He's gonna have a heart attack.
I was thinking of starting a YouTube series to give my own opinions on issues, and I fear that it would just be highly boring. That I'd be inclined to reason out all the arguments, give a balanced perspective, and then even if it's highly reasonable, it would just be so damn boring no one would watch it.
How you doing, Ben? You gonna troll us for a while?
Ben, the yellow, call him Yellow Cube Sphere. Call him Yellow Sphere, so I know who you're talking about. Hey, kids, moving. J-Dubs, no, I'm installing a gang. Hey, Abel, remember me? I remember the Yellow Sphere. I don't remember Benny. Yeah, we talked, but there's many people I talked with. And
I'll be
I know we
back.
talked before, and I know we talked before.
I'm gonna say I'm just gonna be back after I watch this E3 event, so I'll see you guys later, man.
Okay, see you later. Benny from Europe. What do we talk about? Are you the one who looks like the Game of Thrones character? Okay, who are you?
Ben is a gypsy from Romania, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, what did... Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we talked about races of people. That's something we would have talked about. And animals. So what did we talk about specifically? We must have talked about how the agricultural selection of animals would be analogous to eugenics, am I right? How blacks are the lowest as far as intelligence, so the black Africans and the Australian and the Ashkenazi Jews are the smartest. So that's one of the contentious subjects that I'm attracted to, and I do take one of the most taboo positions on that. That's right. And it's like a minefield whenever this conversation goes anywhere. Yeah, I bet you like it.
What's your IQ, Ben?
Links to bones. Don't have an IQ.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He's too smart for that. Too smart for IQ. Oh yes, Benny from Europe. You showed up after I had the I suppose it was toward the end of the Google Hangout for Eugenics, the Eugenics SIG. The Eugenics Special Interest Group of Mensa. And that's going to happen again tomorrow. Tomorrow starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll do it again. Wait, no, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern Time. 3 p.m. my time.
What's happening at 5 o'clock? We're throwing Benny off the bridge?
5 p.m. Eastern Time, a discussion about eugenics. Tomorrow, and every Sunday. And my Facebook group, Public Eugenics Special Interest Group, is here. There's the link.
What particularly gets you into eugenics?
Well, like I said, I seem to be exceptionally attracted to taboo topics and taboo positions of those topics, and eugenics is for ever since World War II has been a very taboo political method.
Well, I mean, I would think so. I mean, saying that some people are fucking less people than other people, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I do think if it's done carefully and democratically, that it has the potential to benefit future generations. Uh, uh, for one thing, there are many genetic diseases or diseases that have a strong genetic link, like bipolar disorder. If someone has bipolar disorder, he or she should not be mating with someone else who has bipolar disorder and having a baby, because chances are that baby too is going to have bipolar disorder, and sometimes bipolar disorder can be very serious, greatly decrease the quality of one's life. And I would recommend adopting a child rather than bearing a child. I would recommend that there ought to be some kind of genetic testing service that gives you the probability of genetic diseases. That used to be 23andme.com. You would register, they would give you a vial, and you would spit into the vial and you'd send it back, and they would analyze your DNA and give your ancestry and the probabilities of many genetic diseases based on the DNA analysis. That was shut down by the FDA because of the potential for false positives being overestimated, or false positives being estimated. But I do think that it would be worth it for genetic testing to be done, just so people are more realistic about their own DNA and the effect it has on their lives. I also believe that intelligence is largely genetic, not completely genetic. It's more like 70% in my estimate. The variation from the mean is like 70% genetic. That means if you have a high IQ, then 70% of that goes into it is the genes of your mother and father, or maybe just a random mutation after the combination of the genes of your mother and father.
Welcome to the room, Total Twist. We're talking about getting rid of the lesser species, I suppose.
What, women?
No. No, I actually don't. I wouldn't say that any races or any species, for that matter, is better or worse.
Come on, don't back down.
I think slugs need to go, just saying.
Yeah, maybe mosquitoes. I really don't like mosquitoes. If every mosquito species on the planet Earth went extinct, that would be a good thing.
Does
And
anyone
maybe
really
someday-
need naked mole rats? I mean, do we really need them?
You think you're fucking funny, huh?
Yes, I think I'm absolutely fucking hilarious.
Look at this fucking evil kid. Oh, he's laughing. Oh, I'm so funny. Oh, I'm gonna stretch my arm.
Nick Sahu was removed. Was he kicked out for some reason? Don't know who he is.
He sounded like a real winner. He sounded like he was going far in life. Maybe he could be the first one to go to, and maybe he could be the first Abel in the eugenics experiments to go, huh?
Hey, John F. Felix. Hello,
Hey, how's it going?
So, eugenics. I think the best way to enact eugenics, to start with, would be on a personal level. That we really need to make sense of our own DNA and see if it's worth it to reproduce given our genes. or if it's better to adopt a child, or get artificial semination from a superior man, or maybe real sex for that matter.
Just where's the
From a
fun in that?
superior
I'm
man.
just what? Why? There's no fun in that. There's like
No
zero fun.
Why? Getting sex from a superior man is not fun? Is that what you're saying?
No. Just getting the semen from it is absolutely no fun at all. It's like, here's this turkey baster. It's from a superior male. Just imagine it was good.
Well, not only can you imagine it's good, you can honestly conclude that it is good. There are some genes that would be more appropriate to reproduce with than other genes.
You can get the headgear from Demolition Man and have virtual stimulation and everything. Yeah.
Okay, what's the headgear from Demolition Man? I'll need to look that up. Demolition Man.
Yeah, it's his movie in the future. Sex is archaic.
Sylvester Stallone. Basically, Sylvester Stallone is trying to hit on Sandra Bullock, and Sandra Bullock's like, yeah, I'm all into it. By the way, don't touch me. Just put this on your head, and we'll pretend to have sex in our minds.
And so what, he ejaculates into a tube or something?
No, he just kind of comes in as a mind. Mental masturbation.
Whatever, okay. Haven't seen that movie.
You're not missing much.
Have you seen the movie Gattaca?
Yes.
That is a very cool movie. I love that. I saw it like 10 years ago. It's about what may happen if eugenics becomes privately enacted. That people get genetically engineered kids, and they prefer genetically engineered kids to the natural children, and the genetically engineered are superior, and they're a superior class, and they're oppressed. They oppress the inferiors. And I actually think that we are on course for something like Gattaca without genetic engineering and without eugenics, because the people of high intelligence tend to move up in the social classes, and that's somewhat new in civilization for intelligent people to be able to move up to a higher class rather than stick in the class that they were born in.
I would disagree, though. There are a lot of people who are absolutely brilliant at what they do and have absolute genius to them, but they're going to go nowhere, absolutely nowhere in life.
Well, they are more likely, even if it's just a little more likely, they are more likely to move up. They would tend to get high grades in high school, and they are more likely to get scholarships. They're more likely to get a master's degree or a PhD and make big money after they graduate, even if they come from a poor background. This time in human history is the time that happens more often than any other time. If you are highly intelligent, if you were like an Einstein in the Middle Ages and you were born into a farmer family, you would be a farmer. Maybe you would do your farm work a little more cleverly, but you wouldn't really have a chance to move up and be a lord or a king or anything like that.
I would agree that the opportunity is there, but I wouldn't say it's more likely. I mean, you have...
Is it more likely than in the Middle Ages?
Well, it would be more opportunity. I'm just going to put down more opportunity because other factors don't come into play. For instance, someone who has to deal with the ghetto and just being dragged into gang life violence. They might be intelligent and they might have gotten that scholarship, but other social influences or anything around them is going to deter them actually doing it and getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with eugenics is telling people who gets to live and who doesn't get to live and why and how. I mean, it's not right.
Yeah.
Why just because someone's poor they shouldn't live? Just because someone's dumb they shouldn't live? I mean, Just because someone has cancer, they shouldn't live? I mean...
Well, if eugenics were enacted on the political level, then hopefully it wouldn't be about who gets to live and who has to die, but it would be more about who is more encouraged to sire or bear children, or more children, and who is discouraged from siring more children or bearing more children. Or maybe even just more public awareness of DNA and what the quality of one's own DNA would help to enact eugenics on a small level, because some people would know that it's better not to have children, and some people would know it's better to have more children.
I mean, hey, but you're pretty much saying that I shouldn't have existed, you know?
Here, I've got a really, I don't know how many people here have actually seen Star Trek, The Next Generation. There was a very good episode in regards to a planet where they all had genetically modified children and whatnot. Yet Geordi LaForge, obviously being a blind person, would never have existed in this world and would not have, they solved whatever technological babble, gibberish, whatever, because of Geordi LaForge's visor. They would not have come up with this technology if it had not been for the fact that there had to be a demand for it. Basically, all of that is the mother of all necessity. Invention is the mother of all necessity, so therefore all these complications and difficulties and all of this variance in the species allow for us to try and adapt around it, as opposed to, just trying to avoid it in the first place. We actually might miss out on technology. It was a good point.
Well, suppose everybody...
I think that's Jesus calling. That big up.
Suppose everyone on the planet increased their IQ by 30 points. If eugenics were enacted, everyone became smarter because their parents were smarts. If that happens 100 years from now, there would still be a high demand, a high want to better ourselves, and there will always be ways to become better and better, more opportunities. We might not have the opportunity for interstellar travel if we don't all become smarter, if there were not a lot of physicists with a much higher IQ than there are now, and engineers, I think, would be the more relevant thing, and a higher productivity of businessmen to pay the taxes. Would not, if everyone occupied a diversity of planets, would that not fuel the desire to find solutions and come up with a lot of scientific advancements? Trying to solve the problems of the handicapped would, I suppose, that is a motivator, but there are many other opportunities for that, and I think those demands would magnify if we did have an environment that where everyone was smarter.
Oh, did she get raptured? Oh boy.
I don't know where she went.
Oh, I thought you got raptured there, Total Twist. As to say, you're one of the Jesus elect, I guess. I thought you were.
Yeah, well, they rejected me on impact.
Oh, there you are. What's your name, woman?
Total Twist. Woman? What's your name, woman?
Yeah, so what's your name?
Twist.
Twist? Twist.
Yes.
Twist, which one? Oh, there you are, Total Twist. I don't know if you got all that, but there's my argument.
I accidentally unplugged my headset and half of it. So that's why I actually in the chat.
Okay. So basically, my argument is the needs of the human species would magnify. They would not diminish if everyone became smarter, even if we did not have the handicaps that come with genetics that would cause blindness or whatever. We would live on many different planets, moons, asteroids, with a diversity of environments.
See, I don't see the physical detriment of being blind as impacting anything to do with your intelligence, though. Or having
yeah, but it would be a
arms or
disadvantage.
disability.
I think
It's a disadvantage, sure, but
except who belongs to the culture of the blind does not want to be blind, and they don't want to have the genes for blindness if they exist. I'm not sure they exist.
it doesn't really matter, though, because say you have a perfect race of people that don't have any of these corrupt sequences in their genetic coding, you're still going to have people who become blind through sickness, through, just having, going Oedipus on them and just poking their eyes out because they slept with their mom.
Yes.
You're going to have these things anyway, so you might as well leave them in there anyhow for diversity's sake.
Well, wouldn't we rather have less of it? It's going to be there one way or the other, but there are societies in the present human population where fewer genetic diseases exist than other populations, and
I just think.
I think.
Well, the idea of trying to reduce it is one thing, but to completely want to eradicate it is very naive.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly
I wouldn't go for absolute eradication of anything.
And just to go back to the idea of like Star Trek, the point was basically that some technologies are not developed if the need is not there. So if we do not have these people who have these needs, we will not develop the technology. It will go completely unseen or unneeded because we don't need it if there is no need.
And again, I say that human needs and human wants, there will be many more avenues for that, many more, if we don't go the route of enhancing our own genetics. The needs that come with living on Mars are drastically different from the needs that come with living on Earth. Mm-hmm. And we may never have the opportunity to live on Mars if we don't enhance our own genes.
Yes, but you do realize that Martians will eventually break off from the human species eventually over time. I mean, so that again has we would want as many variations in the population on the Martian planet as possible. I mean, I don't see why just because one person became blind means that their genetics was faulty in any way, shape, or form for their intelligence.
That's true. We wouldn't be selecting exclusively for intelligence, but I do support the general selection of human genes on whatever we consider better based on what children would want to be. Be it.
Wouldn't that be kind of weird? You go to the doctor's office and I want a baby to look like this, have these eyes, and you're like picking it out like you're going to the fucking supermarket for food or something, you know?
That is the Gattaca perspective. The eugenics. The eugenics that I would start with would be just about choosing mates or choosing to have children based on...
I mean, people are really narcissistic. They'll probably just make children look just like them, like a twin or something, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that.
And that's already happens.
I would be in favor of trying to... Eugenics. I would be in favor of eugenics if it is trying to avoid a inherited disease, really. To prevent disease from continuing. For instance, in my family, we have Marfan syndrome. I would prefer, as a female, I'm a carrier. So I would be in favor of going to a doctor and saying, can you please screen out all of the genetics from Marfans from my coding? I'd be in favor of that, but I don't think I'd necessarily want or need for them to be extremely intelligent. Yes, it would be a bonus, but it's not something I would think is necessary for an individual or for genius to come about, really. Because what is genius? I mean, genius could be a genius screenplay, a genius, mathematician, a genius at freaking planting shoes. Okay, it's like
Right.
you don't know what you're going to get, and it would be very narrow for you to think that genius is only a certain thing.
Uh-huh. That's true. I certainly wouldn't want to claim that IQ covers the diversity of whatever makes a supreme human mind. It doesn't account for creativity or taste in art or depth of emotion or those other things that we find better. But it is one important
I think there was an asshole that lived about 65 years ago who thought he could do something like this. I'm just saying.
Oh, that guy. I don't remember his name. I do remember he had a thin, narrow mustache, which I think is unstylish.
What are you? What do you have against Charlie Chaplin? Come on, tell me.
Well, Charlie Chaplin or whatever his name was did not actually appreciate IQ. He thought that IQ was Jewish. And that's
Benny, I'm just letting you know you have your icon with the arrow pointing to the left. For me, that's BC. So you're saying your girlfriend is BC.
Yeah, that's what okay. I've got it as well. He's pointing at BC for me too.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, during the Nazis thought that IQ was Jewish because the European Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, had higher IQs than the Germans, and so IQ was false. It's a result of the conspiracy of the Jews, and therefore pay no attention to IQ. And I do think
no attention to the man behind the IQ curtain.
Yeah, IQ is Jewish, and I do think that's wrong. I do think that we should take IQ into consideration, but not the only consideration, because I do think all of our children would rather have a higher IQ, even if there are many other things that make a better human being.
You know what I think might make a better human? Manners. Just saying.
Right. No disagreement.
That doesn't really especially need freaking IQ for that. Just, some common sense.
Right.
I think if you want to actually better the human species, for me personally, it would be making people take an test before they actually have children. Because that would be, for me, the best thing in the world is, do you meet the criteria to even have the children in the first place, to meet all of their needs?
Yeah.
Do you even want them? I don't think that just because you have a penis and can ejaculate into a woman, and just because the woman actually has a cunt and some ovaries, that she actually should have children.
I agree.
That he should have children. There's so many people.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that children. Too. I definitely don't think there should be a test.
Why not? Why shouldn't there be a test? I think maybe there have to be a test to either encourage or discourage people from having children, but not to pass a law to prohibit them from having children if they get a low score on that test or whatever.
I just think it's one of those things where we actually have to get a license to have a car, we have to have a license to own a gun, we have to have a license for a lot of things, but we don't have a license for the most important thing I think you can pass on into the future, which is child rearing.
So take a written exam to see if you know how to raise children.
It's more so along the fact of, do you want children, and why do you want children, and so on and so forth. There has to be more than just, well, because my genetics tells me I should do. Just because society tells me I should do.
You're not talking about a genetic test. You're talking about a written test.
I'm talking about, economically, are they sound? Are they in the right capacity to have children? I mean, if they're an abusive person, this person should not have kids. They should go through anger management before they actually have kids.
That seems reasonable. I would put.
I mean, it basically sounds like only rich fuckers can have kids, and if you're an asshole, you can't have them. I mean, it seems so arbitrary.
That's the point,
yeah. I mean, it seems like these days only rich people could do all the things in the world. Everything's expensive these days. It's like they get all these privileges. Fuck the poor, right? I don't think like that. I guess.
I personally just don't want.
But then again, I'm the one with Che Guerrero on my icon, so I don't know.
For me personally, I don't feel that this test needs to necessarily be just for the rich. It's just, can you, like for instance, Octomom. She's just popping them out. She's just popping them out though, and she has no capacity to take care of them. Not really. She just has the right to pop them out.
Okay, but that's her. But why should the children? Why is it a wrong thing for bringing children into the world?
There is nothing wrong with bringing children into the world, but it is very wrong to actually just allow anyone to bring them into the world, especially if anyone doesn't necessarily want them.
I don't know. I think we should bring more children in the world. We don't need less children. We need more children, in my opinion.
We can definitely do without a lot of people on this planet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the thinking of today's age. I guess that's. I mean,
Well, I can't see the population growth being good and limited finite resources, and you can actually, I think, help the planet and how we share resources by decreasing the population. We don't have to have mega rich and we don't have to have mega poor if the resources are abundant to all.
Reuven, I added you to the Public Eugenics Special Interest Group. Is there someone here named Glenn Danzig? She asked to join too. And I'll add her.
Can no one still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh my god, you guys finally hear me. Okay, good. I was just sitting here waiting patiently for like a chance for people to hear me. Okay, cool. Carry on. I have nothing to say, just I wanted to be able to be heard.
There's the link to the Public Eugenics Special Interest Group again for discussing eugenics. Prescott asks, so eugenics is bad, but eufinansics is good? I'm not sure what that is, eufinansics.
Basically, eugenics, but for finances, basically the super rich are the only thing to be able to do anything and have capacity.
Yeah, there's a word for that, but I forget the other word for it. It's the rule of the rich. So that sounds like a question for you, Twist. So eugenics is bad, but eufinansics is okay.
We've had this even since, this is how Darwin even came about with the concept of natural selection, or really what spurred him on to have a look at it, to delve or think about it. I mean, he read the paper in regards to people breeding and, the super poor, and then the dynamics between, what's going on in regards to that. These people will breed because they've got the money to healthcare, to all of this stuff. These people will have children and their offspring will die because they do not have access to medicine and all the stuff that the rich do.
Yeah.
This has been going on.
I don't think it needs to be one way or the other. I think there's an easy compromise that can be made here. Say you isolate a portion of the population who voluntarily wishes to go into a eugenics program. This way, anyone who wants to continue to have kids can do so, but they'll be isolated from whatever society decides that they want to make the perfect race of human beings.
I'm thinking maybe tax incentives would do it.
What was that? You guys talked at the same time, I think.
Tax incentives. like have more taxes on those who bear more children and less taxes on those who bear fewer children if they have inferior DNA, and the converse if they have superior DNA.
I don't know. I'm not liking it. I don't like hearing about making a different putting people in different class systems now. We're talking about like segregating the population. I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole here.
Not
Pretty bad.
necessarily like forcing anyone into it. Like I meant like specifically a voluntary segment of the population. So let's say 1,000 people want to go into like they want to build the perfect race of human beings. Well, then they can build their own society and have their rules, inclusive to that.
So we're basically the future you're talking about is like the movie Elysium here. We're going to be like Matt Damon here trying to, fight the system or something. I mean, this is kind of, silly.
I never saw that movie. The reference is going over my head.
So why can't we actually just do what Aeon Flux did and everybody just clones themselves repeatedly?
I would love that. I would totally marry myself. Yeah.
Problem solved. Everybody that's already here, everyone that's already here gets to stay. No new, no old. Just everyone who's here gets to stay.
What if the clones started to kill each other, though?
Just clone them back again. They're gonna run out of DNA. They just, scratch their arm a little bit and clone them from there.
Think about it. Like, that would be a cool fight to watch. Like, the same person fighting themselves.
That'd be some kinky porn, dude.
You could need to sell tickets for that. That would, like, totally blow boxing as it is out of the water. Like, think, Reuven versus Reuven. Which Reuven is going to win?
It's a knockout on both ends.
So I'll finish my thoughts about Gattaca. I actually think that we're on course for Gattaca, even without eugenics or genetic engineering, because the high IQ and high ability populations will rise to the higher classes, and the more intelligent and more capable men will tend to breed with the more beautiful and healthy women, because they prefer each other. And on the other end of the scale, the less intelligent and less capable men will breed with the less beautiful and less healthy women. And it's a pattern that will perpetuate in a feedback loop until there are very stark differences between the upper class and the lower class, where the upper class will be super tall, super beautiful, super intelligent beings like a whole different species, and the lower class will be like basically retards and very poor, and they'll live like animals, and they'll be slaves to the upper class, essentially.
Doesn't sound any different than now. I mean,
like it really doesn't.
There's already a stratification in existence.
I mean, the proletarian is already a slave to the bourgeois. I mean, it doesn't sound like anything different now.
Yeah, the upper class right now does tend to be higher IQ because of the stratification that's going on right now. The upper class, not all of them were born into the upper class. Some of them were born into the lower class. but many are, and so we really are currently on course. The higher IQ do tend to be more beautiful. Uh, that really is the science. We don't want to believe it. We want to think that everything's fair and the high IQ nerds are less beautiful, but that's really not the case. Humanity really is unfair, and some people do get more than others in every respect.
I've seen some nerdy scientists, dude, and gotta say, some of them really don't rock my socks.
You're awful quiet over there, Prescott. You have anything to add to this wonderful conversation we're having?
No.
Einstein was a chick magnet. I think he was, just because he was powerful and smart, very influential guy. Therefore, he would be a chick magnet, even if he wasn't the best looking. I went to the men's annual gathering where they have a subgroup for Gen Y people, those who are 30 years old and younger. And those people actually seem to be sexy. Like it was a meeting of people who look better than everyone else. Many of them looked like models. They were incredibly cute. Better looking than the rest of the population.
And were you invited there?
Yeah, because I'm a member of Mensa and Gen Y. I may have invited myself. I don't exactly remember. But the members of Mensa and those 30 years older or below would.
So where would you rate yourself, since you are part of that group? Where would you rate yourself on the looks of the population?
I'd rate myself better looking than the average person. It sounds vain, and maybe it is, but yeah, I think I look pretty good. What do you think?
I'm pleading the fifth right now.
Well, we aren't going to use avatars as a way of judging this particular contest. Twisted's avatar doesn't.
I scream gorgeousness. Look at me.
Yes, you do.
Oh, I'm so gorgeous.
I wonder if bears are sitting around thinking about, which bears need to go, and you know what I mean? It's almost like it's like a human problem, It's like you never find like a mass grave of like polar bears, like genetically exterminated the brown bears or something, It's like humans really got a problem. They definitely do. I don't know if that made sense to anyone, but I'm just rambling in my head.
Yeah, you're welcome to. I do fear that eugenics would be abused, like it has in the past, by people who would want to think that their own race or their own genetic stock is better than all the others, in spite of the evidence. And or even if they do have superior genetic stock, they would want to commit genocide on other people, or forcible sterilizations, or otherwise some kind of oppression on people who are not like themselves.
Danny, can you shut that garbage off? No one wants to listen to that garbage. Come on, man.
It's the music that scientists listen to whenever they're extracting that perfect egg and putting that perfect sperm into it.
And I also need to smoke a pipe and light that up. And
he's probably watching soccer, so.
Drinking bourbon. I need a bottle of bourbon next to me. And a comfortable leather armchair.
You all right over there, Abel?
I am. Why
You
do you
look
ask?
very uncomfortable.
Oh, how so?
You're twitching.
Twitching? It could be a camera effect. I don't know.
No, you're literally moving back and forth. That's twitching, man.
Twitching?
I don't have
You
the
mean-
video on, but I do hear like clickety clackety clickety clack. I thought you were fapping for a second.
He's
I don't know
trying
what
to
that
figure
is.
out what position he actually wants to be in. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'll sit down in my chair like this. Okay, no, that's not working. I'm gonna put my feet on the desk. Oh, no, that doesn't work either. I don't look sensual enough. Maybe I should put one leg up instead. My sock is fantastic."
I think we should weed out the trait of that makes people twitchy. I think that's like a trait that should be removed out of the human person.
Fidgetiness, yeah.
Yeah, fidgetiness. Yeah.
Why is that so bad?
I think we should just remove uncomfortable chairs and everyone should just get sofas at work.
I was thinking about getting a big comfy chair for my desk rather than this chair, although this chair is kind of comfortable.
I actually heard that the best working position is actually standing up with your screen in front of you on top of a high table.
I believe it. I thought of that too. It's healthier, at the very least.
You supposedly lose calories and it's better for your back. Not sure what it does for your varicose veins, but apparently it's much better than sitting down.
Yeah. But I expect it would be tiring. I'd want to sit down after a while, standing up. But maybe that's just because I'm used to sitting down so much.
Yeah, you're part of the lower class, Abel. That's why I think we're gonna have to remove you.
Okay.
One of the problems I have with eugenics and the way that you actually phrase things is that you have stated superior genetics. How are you quantifying superior intellect or just superior genetics?
Well, I would
if it's a
hesitate
basic,
to say superior human beings or superior races or superior populations or anything like that. But I would say more preferable, and it is perfectly subjective.
How are you quantifying it not being opinion?
Well, you can take a poll. Would you rather have a higher IQ or a lower IQ? And if a
Yeah, but
majority
that doesn't say anything about intellect. You can have a high IQ and be the world's dumbest piece of shit.
Well, no, you don't. No, you can't.
Yes, you can. The woman with the highest IQ knew absolutely nothing about the mathematics she was writing in her books. She just knew a lot of stuff. She could regurgitate information very well. She didn't know what she was talking about.
It's unlikely to have a high IQ and be a dumb piece of shit. It's possible, but just not so likely. And it's especially improbable to have the highest IQ and be the dumbest piece of shit in the world.
You can have a very, very low piece of, low IQ, but you're very good at problem solving. Problem solving is probably where you're getting intelligence and intellect and IQ confused, in my opinion.
IQ does have a strong relation to problem solving. That's what it's all about.
Some of the nicest people I ever met are not exactly the brightest, bulb in the knife drawer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who are, in my opinion, definitely lower in IQ than me, but they are really, really good at problem solving. Like, incredibly good at figuring out how to solve a problem.
Well,
and that, for me, would mean that they are intelligent.
Is problem solving the only metric we should go by? Because, I mean, there are lots of people who are dumb but do a lot of good things in their communities.
But that's what I mean, though. That's what a problem that I'm having with what he's actually saying, high IQ being the rate. Because high IQ doesn't mean that you're going to create beautiful sonnets or beautiful pieces of artwork, which have intellect behind them. I mean, you'd be weeding out a lot of other things if you are just going purely on IQ. And as I stated before, some people with very high IQ are just very good at remembering and regurgitating information, but they don't really know what it is they're actually regurgitating. They don't. There's a difference between, knowing and understanding the information you're actually getting.
IQ has a strong relationship with whatever mental qualities we find desirable, and understanding, comprehension is, and problem solving especially has a strong relationship to IQ. IQ has less of a relationship with like creativity, but still some kind of relationship, and very few negative correlations with anything we find desirable, because.
Would you like a world full of savants? Because I know that there are a good deal of savants that are completely incapable of taking care of themselves. They're unable to.
Yeah. Well, that exists in the modern world without all the savants.
I mean, these are people with very high, quote-unquote, IQs, but they're completely incapable of taking care of themselves. They don't know how to cook for themselves. They don't know how to clean. They don't know how to actually create social interactions. They don't even know how to actually tell you the incredible things that are going on in your head.
Those guys with autism, that like Rain Man, maybe the world would not be a better place with a lot of Rain Mans, but a world with a lot of people with high IQs, yeah.
But that's the world you'd be more than likely you'd be artificially selecting for, and you would, in some ways, be hurting yourself, because even though you'd be weeding out what you classify as undesirable pieces of genetics, you're actually in favor of a lot more Rain Men.
I don't.
And that's another burden on the society that I don't think you really thought about.
No, I don't see how a lot of Rain Men would follow from selecting for higher IQs.
They are people who actually, can. For instance, I think it was a gentleman who actually could learn a whole bunch of languages. He has a very high IQ for languages, but he is unable to really take care of himself. He has to have a caretaker. Mm-hmm. And that would be something you'd be selecting for. I mean, you don't know what you're going to be getting. It's just high IQ you're ticking off whenever you're actually reading out the genetics there.
Yeah, so you think maybe those people with lower IQs have some things that people with high IQs generally don't.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, like willingness to do sucky jobs.
Like social skills, for instance. I mean, they may not be able to regurgitate the information as well as someone maybe with a savant can. However, they might be incredibly good orators, good communicators, someone who can actually bridge the gap between the savant and you.
Yeah, I have not seen evidence of that, like at the men's annual gathering, that people are actually normal people who are who do not actually tend to be nerds or geeks and do not tend to be unsociable, but very sociable, actually. And better at it. There's never been a negative correlation between IQ or sociability or anything like that, not in any of the studies.
Can I state something in regards to that anecdotal evidence? You're meeting the social ones in that group.
Yeah,
maybe
the
unsociable ones that are antisocial. Are you how many of the Mensa group are you meeting the entirety of the Mensa group, or are you just meeting the select?
I grant you that the people who would go to the annual gathering would tend to be the sociable ones, and maybe it's true. Maybe like the vast hordes of Mensans who are unsociable would not go to the men's annual gathering. But there's also many studies on IQ, and none of them have found any kind of negative correlation between like EQ and IQ. There's actually a positive correlation, if slight, EQ being emotional quotient, emotional intelligence.
But isn't that kind of like a Republican outfit doing a poll and then coming up with positive Republican results?
If like the tests are biased, you're saying? They could be, but it's the best data that we have. There's no data as of yet that would suggest that high IQ is associated with anything undesirable.
Okay.
Not that I know of, anyway.
But I in my way, are high IQs that are undesirable, the ones that just can't function in any other way, shape, or forms. They're incredibly good at pattern recognition. They're incredibly good at picking up languages. They're incredibly good at mathematics, but they are completely dysfunctional for the rest of society's ability to communicate with one another.
Yeah,
These people are not going to breed.
Those people exist, but are they the general rule, or are they just...
Well, if you're
that's the way
actually
they are.
pushing in that general direction of where IQ is the thing that you're pushing for, you're going to get more of those types of people.
That would be true if the people we were talking about were the general rule. If it's not the general rule, then it's not going to happen.
But you don't know that. Genetics is not a toy that you can count on being a certain way, that you're going to get a certain outcome. When you only select for one variable, you're going to get other things that happen. Genes don't just,
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest
one
selecting for
thing.
only one variable. There's many variables to select for besides IQ. And
But see,
I would suggest
this is why I go back to what are you quantifying as being preferable genetics that isn't opinion.
So there's IQ, there's beauty, there's height, there's diseases. There's many diseases associated with genetics, like bipolar disorder.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm not really following. I came in late and I'm having a hard time understanding what the conversation is.
We're talking about
I
eugenics and what type of weeds of the human race do we have to weed out first?
No, not quite, but okay, that's a summary.
My position is that we don't play with this and we don't weed out anyone.
Can somebody really tell me what the conversation is?
It is about eugenics and the best way to apply eugenics. And we're talking about...
Is there a good way to apply eugenics?
Yeah, my suggestion would be
isn't.
it's at a personal level where everyone should be aware of the qualities of their own DNA to make personal decisions about whether or not they should reproduce. Like I knew a woman with bipolar disorder, and she had a boyfriend with bipolar disorder. Her mother had bipolar disorder. Her sister had bipolar disorder, and she got pregnant with her boyfriend to bear a child that would very likely have bipolar disorder. And when she went off her medications during pregnancy, she would have severe hallucinations associated with bipolar disorder. And I would tell her...
think that bipolar disorder and hallucinations are not congruent.
They are associated.
No, they're not. They're not. I'm bipolar.
It's not associated for you, but it is with other people. People with more severe cases.
Bipolar disorder and psychosis are not associated. They're not. She must have something else.
Maybe so.
Why should someone not exist because of that, though? I mean, why should someone's life not exist because of that?
Why should they not be conceived and why should they not be born? Because children would rather not have bipolar disorder, and we'd all be happy.
Well, that's just your subjective opinion, though.
It is subjective, but there's all every value judgment that we ever make is subjective.
I'm bipolar.
I'm sure Sheik would rather exist with the illness than be dead and not exist.
I think she would have made a wiser personal judgment if she chose to adopt children instead of bearing children.
Why is that? How do you know what those children were born with?
Since bipolar disorder has a strong genetic link, there's a high probability, not the complete certainty, that such children would be born with bipolar disorder.
If she adopts, first of all, we all have we're all susceptible to certain diseases from genetically. There's nobody that's not susceptible or has a predisposition. So my question to you is, when you're saying that somebody would be better off adopting, how do we know if the person doesn't have a disposition to being bipolar and the genetic exposure?
By looking at their parents, brothers, and sisters, we can at least make a good probability estimates of the kinds of genetic disorders such a child will have.
It's
I
not.
know,
I don't.
100% certainty is not necessary in order to make a sound judgment. Every decision that we ever make has to do with probabilities.
You're not right,
and
but there's
some
no
are wiser than
probability.
others.
There's no foundation for your probability assumptions unless there's data, and there isn't always
Sure.
data available.
Not always, but often there is.
I don't think it is very often, actually, when you adopt.
I think it is often.
Okay, let me check that.
Can I make a point real quick?
All right, Benny. Talk to you later. Peace out, bruh.
Hey,
See you, Benny.
Take care, buddy.
Bye, Benny.
Take care, Benny. All right, so first of all, I have bipolar NOS, and my girlfriend has is a manic bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
We plan on having kids, so our kids are very likely to be bipolar. However, we both have very high IQs. So the metric you would have to go by in order to use eugenics, you'd have to either select us for having high IQ or disqualify us based on the bipolar. So yeah, the two of us together probably have something that is negative, but at the same time we have something positive to contribute to the future.
Yeah,
So-
that's true. You can have positives and you can have negatives, and if you add them together, maybe it comes out to be 0, and okay, it makes maybe the net benefit or net deficit is 0, or maybe one's a little better than the other or a little worse than the other.
At the risk of sounding like the bad guy in the room, you think it's 100% wise to have a genius bipolar person?
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
I don't think it matters. We all have our defects, man. Nobody's perfect and going to come out perfect, and everybody has the potential of having a life-threatening or sanity-threatening illness.
I'm not arguing against that. I thought he was arguing for people knowing their own information, which I'm completely.
I don't know if that's.
Hey,
but he also is. Go ahead.
Cerberus, you missed it, man. He was spewing a bunch of stuff a few minutes ago, man. It got
He was
hateful.
talking about adoption, and it's not common for people to give data of their adoptive parents, of their
Not
birth
common.
parents.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you're right. So what we can do is
So what we can
take
do
a probability estimate
but really what we can do is not make assumptions based on an absence of data and telling people how to live their lives. Honestly, it sounds very offensive to me. And
so
maybe it
suppose
should.
we know nothing about the genetics of the child that we're about to adopt. Then we can say the probability of this child being normal is
unknown, 100% unknown.
I mean, the probability of me walking out of my house and getting hit by a car is pretty high. Doesn't mean I don't leave my house. Come on now, Abel. Come on.
It means that we have even odds of this child being having incredibly good genes or incredibly bad genes, and maybe 63% odds of the child falling within the standard deviations either way. And we can make a probability estimate that even if we know nothing about the child,
but it's not based on that child as an individual at all. It's based on
if we know nothing about the genes of this child, we can still make a probability estimate that this child would have better genes.
But it has nothing to do with that. No, we cannot. We cannot make a probability estimate based on that. You can make a probability estimate of the whole population, but not an individual child.
Yeah, even if we knew nothing.
No, you cannot.
If it's a random child.
You have to generalize. You have no data about the child. And you're telling me
but
if you have no data about the child, how how can you be able to create a probability of that child?
Suppose that we know that our own child is in the bottom 5% of the quality of genes compared to the rest of the population of the United States.
Say that again. I didn't hear you. I apologize.
Suppose we know for sure, in our subjective judgments, that our own child will have the lowest 5% of the quality of genes than the rest of the population. Then it means that a random child that we adopt that we know nothing about has a 95% certainty of being better, having better genes.
No,
yes,
it does.
Yes,
no, it does not.
I think even if the child is on the bottom 5, we should still bring it into the world and love it.
If you want to, yeah, it's your responsibility as a parent.
We can love any child, but we have a choice about what child we want to bring into the world.
We have a choice anyways. We have a choice without these made-up, you're taking nothing and you're making it into probabilities. It's ridiculous. It really is.
I don't know. When you can look up genetics and you can tell the percentage of people that are having children that are passing it on, I think you can make probabilities off of that.
But not about an individual child. You can make it probability of a whole population, maybe based on that. But this is you're gambling for really with nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not forcing them to gamble.
Every gamble is made with.
You're not forcing them to gamble, but you're telling them what they can and can't have, and what quality of life is subjective.
You're passing judgments, and it's really very.
I mean, basically, I wouldn't be here, really. You know.
I wasn't here for the beginning of the argument, but it seems like the argument to me is: should people make wise decisions about having children? And I am completely for that.
Yeah.
Right, but
it's not about telling them they can't do it. It's about informing them.
Well, what about why not do it in utero during gestation and find out if the child has a disease? As opposed to basing it on probabilities of a whole population and making a decision about an individual.
So before you conceive and get pregnant, you'd rather have a knowledge of the probability of whether or not that child.
It doesn't matter to me unless it doesn't matter. It's not. It doesn't matter. There's cancer in my family. There's depression in my family. All families have illnesses.
Well, some families have more problems than others, more genetic problems.
What?
And
how do you know that? And how does anybody know that? What is that based on?
It's based on both fact and theory here.
Right. But what is the fact then? Where do you get that fact? To say that there's families that have more or less illnesses. What we're talking about probabilities, and we're really talking about probabilities of populations. It doesn't matter then.
Actually, it does. And it's just obvious that some families have more problems than others.
I get that. But if we're really generalizing about whole populations when we say that.
Yeah, but we don't have to. We can generalize about a person.
Why should someone not have to come into existence just because their family's a bunch of assholes?
No, not because their family's a bunch of assholes. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Or anything, like any reason.
I was going to say something similar. Even if they have a disease, why is that a reason to say, well, let's weed them out? Because I know a lot of people who have diseases who give me better conversations than quote-unquote normal people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think generally we'd rather have children with less diseases than children with more.
Who is the we that would rather have children a certain way?
I would rather.
I think people generally, they may not like eugenics, but they would rather have children that don't have as many genetic diseases.
Right, but I don't know if you're saying that you think what people would prefer to have this, to be making this choice, though. You don't know that. You're saying what you are assuming. Does anybody have any data on anything that's being discussed?
What kind of data do you have in mind? What would you like to know?
I'm not bringing up the subject. I'm here listening to it, and it seems like people that are not necessarily informed about the subject are discussing it in
ways. Would you
like
knowledge on the genetic link of bipolar disorder? Would you like?
I'm sorry?
Would you like
No,
to know?
I'd like to know about how do you know what people would prefer? Where? At what time? How many
I'm not
people
sure.
are born with genetic predispositions that don't become ill with the diseases?
So you would like evidence that people would rather have children without bipolar disorder than
That isn't what I
children
said.
with bipolar disorder.
That is not what I said. Huh?
Well, okay, be
What I'm saying is that
specific.
you guys are not talking from a data perspective. You're talking about an opinion perspective. That's where you're approaching this from.
Yeah, both the objective data and subjective opinions go into it, and then so if you're asking,
Okay, so where's the objective data?
Objective data that bipolar disorder has a genetic
Anything
link, for
you're
example?
saying, anything you're saying, because you're saying there's I know I'm being a dick. I'm not. I'll tone it down. You're saying that there's objective data, but you haven't shown any objective data.
Okay,
So
I can show
there might
you.
be objective data.
I can show you
Go ahead.
objective data that says bipolar disorder has a strong genetic link. Would you like that?
But you're talking about what people prefer, not about one illness. You're making it. You're choosing decisions for people.
Can I interject?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay, I understand that what you're basically trying to just, pin him down and actually trying to admit that he cannot provide you with is opinion. He can't provide you with statistics on opinion. He can't provide you a poll that people would prefer this. I don't. There probably won't be a poll out there, but generally, on the whole, can we agree that most parents want the best?
Opinion, it's not statistics about opinion. What I'm trying to say is that we're talking about things and drawing conclusions without seeing anything to support the actual conclusions for the questions that are being.
Can there be some deductive reasoning? Can there be some deductive reasoning in regards to, like, for instance, can we deduce that parents generally, as a whole, would want the best for their children, the best start for their children?
Right, but that isn't really what this is. What we're saying is that we're assuming the effect based on a predisposition that isn't even.
Can I ask you a question? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but can I
get that. I don't think it's a viable. I don't think it's a viable point of choosing to not have children based on a certain standard of genetic predisposition.
I'm not even going there. I'm not even going there. I was going to ask you a question in regards to, do you think that a bipolar mental disorder would be advantageous to someone?
If the alternative is that they don't exist, yes.
See, I wouldn't know, because we wouldn't know if that person wants to be in existence with that sort. I mean, to what degree are they, bipolar?
We don't know anyway. Why should we assume that they wouldn't be? Why should they?
But for someone who is not here, for someone who has not come to pass, why would we care if they existed or not?
Because what we're doing would be making, and why?
Oh boy.
But it simply comes down to a parent. We can reasonably assume a parent wants the best start for their child in life. Would that also come to the idea that, we wouldn't want our children born with mermaid syndrome?
All right, I understand what you're saying, but my point is, if it means that they're not going to exist at all, if it's life-threatening, something that's life-threatening and genetically, I volunteered at Children's. I'll give you an example. I volunteered at Children's Memorial Hospital.
Okay.
In the neonatal ICU,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw children being born with terrible deformities. A lot of times this can be found out in utero. That's different to me than getting pregnant at all.
Well, these people, if they so understand that their genetics are disadvantageous, they could go to someone to weed it out, and the child can be born without their preference of disadvantage. I mean, if someone is born with, like I said, here's
I don't think the science is where you're saying it is. I could be
I'm not
wrong, but
saying
I
it is.
really don't
This
think
is
so.
this is really I'm actually just giving you a scenario here. I'm not even
Right,
saying that
right.
science is anywhere near it. I'm actually trying to communicate in such a way that I'm playing devil's advocate here for Abel. Abel is
Well,
trying
if we
to
can
state
get
that.
intervene in the genetics, that's one thing. But I don't think we can intervene in the genetics of like a zygote.
Well, we can manipulate genetics
To the point of
We
being
can
able to remove
select.
diseases?
To remove the fetus.
To remove
No.
diseases. Really?
Yes.
What diseases can we remove in utero genetically?
Well, we can actually decode the strands of genetics inside, say, a piece of sperm or a piece of egg, and see if, for instance, my egg happens to be carrying Marfan syndrome.
No, that I understand, but we can't change it, can we? We can't.
No,
can
but
change?
we can get rid of that egg, and we can find another egg that doesn't have
I'm
Marfan
with you.
syndrome.
I'm with you. But it depends on. I would say that it depends on the specific disease.
But in this case, bipolar disorder.
Bipolar disorder. I'm bipolar, and I would rather exist than not exist.
Well, that's because you exist at this moment in time. But if you
we should. But that's
care.
what I have. That's what I have.
Hold on.
You're judging
if
if
you did
somebody
not exist. No. Stop.
Did not exist if they're
Stop.
did not exist. If a parent should choose a child to not exist, as opposed to with bipolar disorder, as opposed to a child that doesn't have it.
Sheik. If you did not exist, you.
My brother and sister don't have bipolar disorder.
I'm not talking about your brothers or sisters. I'm talking about.
But you are talking about people with the experience of
reverse. No, Sheik. If you actually did not exist, would you care?
It doesn't matter.
No, it does, because you are basically.
No, it's not the point. Whether I exist, you're asking for a vacuum. That's really silly, actually.
No, it's not. It's basically.
It is.
Actually trying to suggest.
But I prefer to not exist I prefer to not have a.
But it's not. You're basically putting a reference there, solely based on your.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he got muted by Ruben. Ruben muted Sheik.
Sheik, you are basically running on your own personal feeling of existence, your own preference of existence, and if
I'm running on instinct.
I would really appreciate it if you didn't speak over me.
But you're telling me what I'm doing, and I'm not. It's instinctual to live.
Sheik, can you do me a favor and just let me speak? And I promise I will let you answer me. But if you do not let me speak, you won't know what I'm saying. Okay?
Go ahead, speak.
Okay. Sheik, you say that because you exist as a person, as you are now, you would prefer to exist. Well, of course you would. You are currently in existence. But if in that turn of events, you did not exist, you would not care. There would be another being in your place.
Oh my God, this is so silly. This is so silly.
Can I make a couple points?
Your position, Sheik, and I thought the same thing.
It's not what I'm saying. Humans have the instinct. Animals, living things have the instinct.
Yes,
why would anybody? Let me finish now, please. Why would anybody not want to live because they may have a problem in their lives? We all have problems in our lives.
It's not about choosing ourselves.
Excuse me. We all have pain in our lives. I have a best friend that was shot in the head. That was really painful. Should I not have lived because his family hurt so badly from that event? Should somebody not have?
It's not about choosing for our own lives. It's about choosing for the lives of our children, and we actually do that all the time whenever we choose.
We, as living beings, we have an instinct to survive.
Yeah, but again, it's not about choosing our own lives. It's about choosing.
I'm not talking. I just said as an instinct. That means all of us, all living things, have an instinct to survive.
I know, and I'm saying it's not about choosing for our own selves. It's not about choosing our own lives. It's about choosing for the lives of our children. Do you get it?
Yeah, but see, I don't see it the way you see it, and I'm pro-choice completely. I think that if somebody can't parent a child, then they shouldn't be forced to.
Mm-hmm.
I see it that way, but I don't see what your point is about genetics. And if we can check in utero, then I don't think it's right to tell people whether or not they should or shouldn't even try to have a baby. And that's what I thought I heard you say originally.
There seems to be a weird inconsistency between choosing to have an abortion based on genetic defects, but not being allowed to choose what sperm or egg we'd like to breed with based on the probability of genetic defects.
Can I ask you a question? And this is just going to be simple. Sure. Right. Yeah. I am pregnant. Let's just say, I'm giving you a scenario here. I'm pregnant, and I find out that that child happens to be Down's, and I choose to abort the child. Are you going to be upset?
No.
Okay. If you know the hold on. Now let me give you the next scenario. I am a mother who has just found out that my child, before it's just an egg. It's just an egg. I find out that that egg has the probability of becoming bipolar. If I discard that egg, discard that egg, will you be mad at me?
If you discard the egg, I don't really, it's your body.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not about you. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not about you and your instinct to want to live, because you live.
Oh, God, it is.
Alive.
It's about that's
no,
human
you're
nature.
alive. The egg does not want to live because it doesn't.
I understand that. We're talking about, but we're talking. What you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that if there's a probability of a child being sick before there's been any insemination or anything, I don't have a problem with that. But that isn't what we've been talking about.
But if I find out that, okay, let's see if. But what I'm trying to say is, and I'm trying to make this very clear to you, is that because you are alive and are conscious, you have an instinct to want to survive and live.
No shit, but we're talking about human decisions and choices, so don't dismiss the fact that I'm alive. I mean, that's ridiculous. I could say the same thing about everything coming out of your mouth right now. Well, it's because you're alive.
Well, yes.
So what? So what?
Well,
it's not.
What I'm trying to say is if I didn't.
We're not talking about making unsentient choices. We're not talking about the egg making a choice.
You're right. It's me.
We're talking about if we think it's right or wrong, ethical or unethical. There's certain things that I think are unethical in the way that they're being discussed here.
Can I ask you a favor? Can I ask you a favor? Can you try, I'm talking calmly to you, and you are actually.
My microphone is so screwed up. I never know if anyone can hear me.
It's not just your microphone. You are actually shouting, and you are quite, you have a very bombastic nature about you when you're actually speaking about this. I can tell you are passionate, but it's becoming a bit.
I think he just left.
That's sad.
He was kind of a dick.
I mean, I was gonna ask if he was a firefighter because he had a firefighter shirt on, and if he's bipolar, I very highly doubt that they would want him to continue firefighting.
Yeah, good point.
You get assessed for that.
Ooh. He really didn't know how to have a mature conversation.
Yeah.
I think he was just very passionate about it because he is if he's bipolar, what we're actually saying is he shouldn't exist, and that actually is an insult to his very existence. It's not that we're trying to say he shouldn't exist. For the very fact that he exists right now, he should be allowed to exist, of course.
Yeah, he was getting the meta message of you shouldn't exist when you guys were trying to have a conversation about the future.
Yes, this is about my decision as a parent. Do I want to make the decision about having a child who has bipolar disorders? And I think, honestly, if I were to be very honest and blunt with myself, no, I would choose not to have a child that has bipolar nature because I do not think it is advantageous to them or would help them in life.
And so the extension of the position really would mean that he would not exist if he were never conceived at all. And so I can see how that can provoke some defensiveness in not just him, but many people.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that he shouldn't exist. I'm not saying bipolar people shouldn't exist. I'm just saying, as a parent, if I were to choose,
Yeah.
I believe I would choose to not have a bipolar child.
Oh, here he is again.
Can you guys hear
welcome
me
back,
better
Jake.
now? Is this?
Yeah, I can see you on cam.
Wait a second.
Can someone catch me up? Because I thought we were talking about informing people about their genetics and not forcing them to do things.
Right.
And I'm trying to talk about the ethics, really, not about what individuals choose to do.
But that is the ethics. I mean, I am actually.
No, it's not the ethics. The
As
ethics
a parent,
is what
I'm actually
society determines as being ethical or unethical. How is what an individual? That's morals, really, what you're saying.
But I am choosing as a parent. If I have to be very blunt and honest, if I was a parent and had the capacity to choose, you know, my child being bipolar or not, I would prefer my child not be bipolar.
Well, that's
probably
choice.
discard
I mean,
the
that's
egg.
fine.
Yes,
I don't care.
That would mean that the child who could have existed, the probability of the child that could exist, won't care because they don't exist because they have no conscious, no sentience.
Okay, that's fine. I don't really. That doesn't matter to me. I really am just talking about ethics, and not determining what people should or shouldn't have children because of their genetic makeup. And
But
that's
I don't
really
think
what I came in with.
I believe that people should be informed, and they should make personal judgments about whether or not to have children. They should not be forced about whether or not they should have children.
What was the part about adoption?
What the part about what now?
When you were talking about adoption, though, it was like you.
I think people should make personal choices about whether or not they should adopt rather than sire children or bear children. Because if they sire children or bear children, then there may be a high probability that such a child will have diseases associated with the genetics. Whereas if they adopt a child, even if they know little or nothing about the child, there may be a higher probability of lower genetic diseases.
So they could be choosing to not have a healthy child in order to adopt a child which is a choice that could have very severe genetic issues.
Well, let's just put it this way: the other child's already here.
Yeah.
I understand that, but we're talking about probabilities and possibilities.
Yeah.
He can be saying, I think that someone should do this or that, and it could result in adopting a child with a very serious genetic illness and not bringing a healthy child into the world.
Yeah, so suppose there's like a 5% chance that the child will have.
We don't know percentages. We don't know percentages of any of this, though.
That's why a lot of it we do.
How do we know about bipolar disorder, maybe? But that's one thing.
No, about a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
If we examine the population of the United States, or maybe the population of whites, if the child is white and that's all we know, then the percentage of people within that population who have a genetic disorder are the odds that that child will have that same genetic disorder. Did you get that?
Where do you get that from?
It's just in basic statistics. You make a probability judgment based on the general population.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to take a whiz. I'll be right back.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, I don't know if I would make a choice one way or the other based off total population statistics. But if you had the DNA of yourself and your spouse, you could make a pretty good guess on lots of things.
Yeah, for sure. I think some people would still choose to have the kid regardless of some disadvantages they may have. But I think we can all at least agree that it's axiomatic that a parent would choose to have a kid without a disability. Should they be the same person, they would be with it.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, this would lead to another ethical question. If we have good statistics on DNA, you know, we get to the point where we can get pretty close on the actual chances. At that point, if two parents have a child that has 90% chance of having some sort of debilitating long-term disease, do we suspect the state to pay for that now?
Okay, I'm back. You're going, Prescott? Okay. And BC.
Don't sound so happy. I was just saying bye to BC.
No one has anything to say about what I just said?
What did you say?
I said in some future point when we could get really close to like what we would consider the real possible chances of genetic disease, and say two people have a child even though they knew there is a really high risk chance. Do we suspect the state to help make up for that like they do nowadays? Or will we say, screw them, that's your choice, take care of it?
Yes.
That's a good point, and those probabilities exist today. Children born with cystic fibrosis, for example, have it because the genes of the mother were incompatible with the genes of the father, and all the children that these two parents have will have cystic fibrosis, where all the children will die at a young age and have health problems all throughout their lives. And there's actually a 100% chance, and I would imagine that there are some parents who would continue to have children even with that knowledge. And they really would get help from the government, especially under Obamacare.
Like, I'm okay with paying for it now when you really can't tell for sure for most things. But if someone's really truly informed and they do it anyway, I'm not okay with paying for their child after that.
You'd rather not pay for the child. Yeah, that is a tough issue because obviously it's not the child's fault, but maybe public funding really should be withheld in order to discourage such breeding. Yeah.
So allow the suffering in any ways. It's inconvenient to pay that money.
Pretty much, Sheik, huh?
Well,
Let them just
if they're informed,
fucking just suffer and die.
If they're informed, at that point they're having a child to punish me. Essentially.
Yeah, that's a little bit self-absorbed.
Don't you think it's a little self-absorbed of them to have the child they know is going to be wrong that I have to pay for?
Right. That is their right to do.
It's their right to make me pay for their child.
They're not making you pay.
If they live in a society where we pay taxes, they are.
That's right, and you don't have a choice where your taxes go for the most part. You pay for a lot of things you don't like.
Actually, you do, in theory. I mean, you could vote people into office to change that law.
Then you should vote people into office, but it doesn't mean your taxes are going to go exactly where you want them to.
That's fine. That's why I would try to change where they go.
That's up to you. But if the outcome is a sick child's suffering because your $100 doesn't go to them, it's just imbecilic to me.
I don't think it is. I don't think of it as if they were informed that they're going to have a child.
Dude, that's like people make decisions though, and sometimes they don't work out, and they might even have insurance already. There might even be funds for people like this.
That's fine. I'm not saying if they have a low chance and it turns out badly that I wouldn't help them. What I'm saying is if they get told the child has an 80%, 90% chance of some long-term disability that we have to pay for, and then they go ahead and do it anyway, I think that should be their problem, not mine.
I don't. At all. Because you know who suffers? The child.
And me, just to a lesser extent.
Huh?
And me, just to a lesser extent.
You're not suffering. You don't even know where your money's going.
But if it was in the system, I would know where it was going. It's not like my $1 that I pay goes to this spot and the other spot. It gets spread out to everything.
Right.
So I
And
know for a fact that my money goes to it.
So it doesn't change anything for you, whether or not they save a child's life or they don't. So they might as well save it and alleviate the suffering.
Yeah, it does. Because if they didn't have it, the money could go somewhere else.
You know what? You don't know either way, and you're making assumptions of where the money would go. Maybe it would go to a war. I mean,
That's true. And then maybe I would try to stop that.
Great.
Here's an
So what you're
interesting
saying is, though,
philosophical
the outcome
question.
is you would rather have a child suffer with a disease because you don't want your money to go to help that child.
No, what I'm saying is I would rather it be non-incentivized to have an unhealthy child if you know there's a high chance of it happening.
Helping the child with medical bills is not an incentive to have sick children.
Disincentive. I didn't say incentive.
Even
Is
as
it
a
better to
disincentive.
steal $10,000 from one person or $10,000 from 10,000 people, $1 each? Which is worse? $10,000 from one person or $1 each from 10,000 people?
It's irrelevant.
Are you asking me or him?
No, I'm asking everyone. Interesting question. If you spread out the pain among 10,000 people, the loss of $1 it might hurt a little for 10,000 people, or is it better to hurt one person 10,000 times as much?
I have no idea how that's relevant to this.
Well, there was a point made where you didn't know where his money was going if he pays money into the tax system. Wouldn't that be relevant? You're saying that stealing $1 from 10,000 people is better because
Who's stealing money for this? How is that stealing
it's an
money?
analogy. It's an analogy. If millions of people pay into a system to support the children of parents who knowingly produce children of cystic fibrosis, then it's not so bad. Why is that now?
Say that again. I'm not following. I'm really not.
Taxpayers, millions of taxpayers pay into the tax system in order to support the children of parents who knowingly produce children.
Okay,
with
the
cystic
misappropriation of tax dollars is physical illnesses is not the biggest problem. We have inefficiencies, and our politics make it very non-transparent what's going on with how money is spent in general. So, if you want to go to what the problem is, it's not providing funds for people in healthcare. It's not that big of an expense when it's people with severe illnesses. It is a big expense, but relative to other expenses, it's not that much.
Yeah, I can agree with you there.
So when we're talking about this and saying, well, I don't want my money to go to it, we have such a huge bureaucracy. You know what?
I think each individual problem is small compared to the whole, but it adds up to a lot.
There's big individual problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's huge individual problems. The banking system is a huge individual problem. There's not enough transparency.
Wait, are you making a case we don't fix what you would consider to be a smaller problem because we have bigger problems?
My point is that I would not place the onus on allowing somebody to suffer when there's other problems that are really egregious. That's not an egregious problem to me.
Well, wouldn't that be on the parents, actually, instead of us?
You know what? I'm not going to judge parents like that, though. You can judge them. I'm not going to.
I do think taking a comprehensive approach to eugenics would solve a vast array of problems, or at least help alleviate a vast array of problems. And this would be just one example to discourage.
Do you trust your people that are in authority roles to be able to manage a eugenics program effectively and without the potential for disaster?
Only with an informed and thoughtful public. I don't know if we're at that point yet, but I do think that looser encouragements of eugenics that are purely on the individual level than on the state would be a great first start. And when the general population becomes smarter and healthier through that, then maybe we can move on to the state level in future generations.
That wasn't what I was asking.
No, I think it was.
No, actually, it's not.
You asked if I trusted the authority figures
Right.
enacting
Well, that could be in the
I said,
private
no,
sector.
probably not at this point. I said no. And there's your answer.
But you were so in a corporation, in the private sector, you wouldn't trust either.
If it's purely private, I trust people to know what's best for their own children, and if they're more informed about the genetic
let's say I discover a technology that allows for the accumulation of a tremendous amount of genetic data, and with that data, that genetic data, I am able to either sell the information to pharmaceutical companies, maybe, whatever the case may be. My point is that ethically, I think it's very complicated.
Yeah, it would be complicated, but I would support the advancement of knowledge and technology if through that.
Who would be doing the research?
I think many individuals or many companies could compete. Like there's a company, 23andme.com, that analyzes your DNA, and it used to be that you could have your health information supplied through that until the FDA said, no, that was a bad idea, you can't do that, but you can have your ancestry and genetic markers analyzed. And some of those genetic haplogroups and whatnot would correlate with like personality types, and you can do an individual genetic analysis. And maybe in the future the FDA will allow it if people become smarter about it. And individuals can make better decisions about whether or not to bear children and what mates to choose. I think it would be wise for there to be a dating service where everyone in the service knows the genetics of everyone else, and they can make decisions about who to marry.
I live in that head of years, man. I really am.
Sorry.
I'm glad I don't think that way.
Okay.
I really am. I think it's really kind of sick.
Norse Invasion, you say you were glad the FDA shut down 23andMe. They didn't quite shut it down, but they did shut down the service that supplies health information. Probably because people overestimated and got a lot of false positives out of the genetic testing. And they're not necessarily licensed to provide health information like a doctor would.
Can a doctor have the same type of tests performed to find out the same data?
I don't see why not. I don't see why a doctor would, a licensed medical doctor, would not be allowed to do a genetic testing.
It's just not allowed as a private corporation providing a service to just anybody. You could probably get the information. Right.
So maybe the trouble is you don't know anything else about the person. All you know is his or her genes, and therefore you supply probability estimates of whether or not he or she will get a specific genetic disorder. And
you know what? I think it's crazy. I think it's sick. I really do. I think it's very sick.
That's fine. I would rather be informed than not informed.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to be informed either. I'm saying that there's a lot of assumptions that are made, though, as to what's better than something else.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like that to me.
And Prescott Johnson says, okay, keep in mind that any time we meddle in these things, they eventually are shown to be bad ideas. All comes out in the wash. I do think that we're already making choices about genetics in our personal lives. We choose to breed with the more beautiful women, and women choose to breed with the more powerful and wealthier men, and those things have genetic components to them.
What are the genetic components to that?
The genetic components to beauty.
Yeah.
Symmetry. It's
Yeah.
kind of known to be symmetry. The genetic components of beauty is generally considered to be symmetry.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of it, but it does seem reasonable that beauty would be genetic. Maybe I should look it up just so I can find out the details, or if somehow beauty is not related to genetics, I can find that out. But it seems improbable to me that beauty would not be related to genetics.
But I think that there's a difference between the things that occur naturally, regardless of the kind of meddling or studies that can be done to determine, genetic advantage or disadvantage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That through history we've been doing this, and so that's and earlier I mentioned, I think, the word natural. What occurs naturally? To me, that is what occurs naturally. That just what happens in our normal course of what we do, in terms of who we choose for partners, who we choose to associate with, who we choose to do religion with, or do anything with. These things are natural. What isn't natural is when we start meddling in, or what I would consider meddling in, things that we then are more, we start making decisions based on somebody telling us that, like for instance, if I go in and I find out that my baby, the baby that my wife is going to have, has some kind of disease, then I start making a decision based on a probability, which I think is part of the concern that is being expressed here, is that we're actually getting more involved in the engineering of human beings when we start doing that, and it is reminiscent of because the eugenicists that were involved in Germany in World War II were really not that much different than the eugenicists who were also involved in the kind of engineering that they were trying to do with the black community in the early 1900s, in terms of trying to encourage sterilization, and or the cases of where retarded children were forced sterilized. And when we start imposing those kinds of things, then we start interfering with an individual's free will and free personhood, which is I think is problematic just from a, I guess, just from a human point of view.
So we know from history that things can go wrong with eugenics, if it's on the state level. If it's on the personal level, I'm thinking it's just an extension.
Stop. Do not try to make excuses and say things that you don't have any evidence for.
I don't really think there's a similarity between what they were doing and what we're suggesting. We're not suggesting to force anyone to.
I don't think you're suggesting what. I don't think you guys are suggesting the same thing. I think that there's a difference of what is being suggested. I think you're talking about something specific, and I think Abel is talking about potential.
I'm talking about making better choices on an individual level, about whether or not we would like to breed, and
what
which
leads you
partners
to think that? What leads you to think that it would stay at an individual level? What is the when it's something this major? What gives you the impression that it would not be abused at all when it has been in the past?
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Sure.
That sounds an awful lot like a slippery slope fallacy. Just saying.
I don't think all slippery slopes are wrong.
You don't see, but why don't you think this one is? Why don't you think this one is right then?
I think it could be done correctly on a state level if we're smart about it, if
Such as what?
we're
Such as
knowledgeable
what?
about it and fair-minded about it. I don't think that the human population is at that level yet. So we have a mean IQ of 100 or below. When people have a mean IQ of more like 120, then maybe people will be smarter about it, or if they have better critical thinking skills and less ideologies, then maybe humanity will be ready for eugenics on the state level that doesn't
But
entail genocide.
why suggest? I don't get that because I don't see that happening. By the way,
Hmm.
I don't see I don't see people developing greater critical thinking skills. I don't see a single indication of it.
Well, I think some people have better critical thinking skills than others. And I'm inclined to think that there is a genetic component to it, although I don't know for sure.
Well,
Um,
you don't. If you don't know, instead of saying this is my problem, this is my problem, not you. Okay.
mhm.
When I hear somebody saying, I think that this is what is, but they can't demonstrate it, then I throw it out. I
Okay.
don't. You know what? It's like personally, I just do. When it's
Yeah.
a topic like this, because it's conjecture. When you say I think
Yeah.
that we could do this, so what? I think if we could be robots too, or if we could download our minds into a computer and live forever, so what? We're
Yeah.
talking about
Here's
about decisions for the future, but not based on what ifs.
here's my general perspective on everything. All of our beliefs are or should be intermediate. Never exactly 100%, never exactly 0%, but somewhere along the spectrum, uh, based on the evidence that goes into it. There's like a close to 0%, but not quite 0%, that none of us really exist, and it's only me with my head in a jar being fed false information about the universe.
Right. Anything is
uh,
possible. I get that.
uh, with more information, more knowledge, then all of our beliefs, or any kind of belief, is never completely certain. It may approach 100% certainty, but never quite getting there. And most of our beliefs fall significantly between the 0% and 100%, like maybe 90%. Uh, for example, you suggested choosing whether or not to have an abortion based on a scan of the fetus, an ultrasound. But those ultrasound images are grainy, and we may make the wrong inferences, even if it's only a 5% chance. We may conclude.
Are you saying that I
wrong.
said that?
You offered the theory that we should make decisions of whether or not to abort based on an ultrasound,
I
and
never
I'm
said a
saying
word about. I never said a word about an ultrasound. I said if we could identify the specific genetic markers and know with certainty what the outcome will be, that's different than saying, well, both parents have this and there's a 25% probability, and making and ethically about the choices, not individually. I don't care what people do individually. It's their
so
bodies, it's their way.
after you have a zygote or a fetus, then you analyze the DNA and you can make a choice then, but not before. And even with that, the probability that our analysis is correct is only intermediate. There may be
Well,
a
it could be
5%.
anywhere from 0.1 to 99.9. So how intermediate is it? Because that's relevant.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it is relevant. The higher our certainty, the more confident we can be in our decision that we've made the right one. The less certainty there is, the less confident we are. And every decision that we ever make falls along that intermediate spectrum. Either more certainty or less certainty, never complete certainty about anything.
Right, right. Is that what the work that you do? Are you a statistician?
No, I did take a statistics course in college, and I see statistics as really the only way to make sense of anything, make decisions of belief. Every belief is intermediate. And so I do take statistics and probabilities very seriously, but it's not really my job.
Okay.
I work as a GIS tech. That means I make maps.
Well,
I'm not sure if everybody's actually seen the comment in YouTube there. It was a young lady by Nadia actually put something down.
I see a YouTube link. Race and Intelligence Sciences Last Taboo. Is that the one?
No, it's
Nadia's
it's,
very,
Nadia.
very sharp. Nadia is
Yeah.
really smart. I know who she is.
She
Yeah,
writes,
so
as someone with a major genetic autoimmune diseases, namely polyglandular autoimmune syndrome (PAS) type 3A, destroying the pancreas and thyroid, I would rather have never have been born than to suffer its agonies or impoverishing socioeconomic impact. And I've not even developed the worst of it yet: blindness, renal failure, amputation. Though I do undergo what's essentially the agony of death from it all too often. Although I was never predisposed to potentially reproductive behavior and pre-surgery testing indicated I was sterile anyway. I have been irreversibly surgically sterilized and didn't store any gametes, even if the surgery was primarily pursuant to other issues. To bring a child into existence at grave risk of developing similar would have been an atrocity despite whatever positive personal qualities some, very few I imagine, might think I have to pass on, even apart from rather powerful reasons why dealing with children would be traumatizing to me. Pardon me while I fall back asleep from the fatigue from missing 3 glands, which I'm sure will lead to more missed doses and therefore ketoacidosis.
ketoacidosis.
I've never come across that word again soon, and make me largely defenseless on the street. I'll be live gibbeted upon as some unpassable freak soon. That's sad.
Yeah, that is a powerful statement, and I did not know that this conversation is going to YouTube. So, is there a YouTube link where we can watch
live.
this?
It's live. When you put it live, it's
I
on
had
YouTube.
no idea. It doesn't really change anything I would have said. Okay, there it is.
It doesn't, and because I know about certain situations, it doesn't change my opinion either.
Okay.
So although I do understand what she is saying and where that comes from, and I respect that, it really doesn't change my opinion. Not that my opinion's even important.
None of our opinions are important. Okay, so I see the YouTube thing. Okay.
Okay, guys, I
So-
want to go soon, so I want to pop out here and say hi to someone else, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
This really is not really an interfaith chat, is it? It became more out of science.
If we'd like to bring faith into it, maybe now's a good time. Is there anyone here with a religious belief that can spin the conversation another direction? I do not have a religious belief.
Me either.
I believe I am God. All bow before me.
So, as God, wouldn't you want their humanity to have better genes?
No.
Shauna Lynch joined this video. Hello, Shauna.
Hello.
She has an avatar that says, "I am not a number, I am a free man." And she just changed her avatar to morewinemanycam.com. Okay, Shauna, do you have any perspectives about eugenics enacted on a personal level. Like if we knew about our own DNA, we knew about the DNA of our potential mates, and based on that information, we could make choices about whether or not to have children or have
Abel,
children.
can I make a recommendation? Don't call it
Okay.
eugenics and see how people respond.
Yeah,
Just
good
describe
thinking.
it.
But the word eugenics, although it does draw hostility, it does draw attention.
Right,
And
but
more attention is generally better.
well, I think you might get a different. You might have gotten a different reaction from me.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, I don't really have any perspectives
Because
to
the
add.
word
I'm
the word
testing
has
out my mini cam.
like I think if you said like
So
genetic,
if I have
if we
anything
made
to say, I'll jump in.
offered if there was greater access to certain individual choices around genetic engineering.
Yeah, Shauna was about to speak. Shauna, go ahead and talk.
Oh, I was just saying that I don't really have anything to add to the conversation. I'm just testing my mini cam, and I'll just listen for a while and
I
drop
can't
out.
hear. I don't know.
She's just testing her minicam, so she'll drop out of the conversation. She does not have much to say. Okay.
Everybody else not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right, good. Sorry to interrupt.
So really, there is no real faith here apart from just.
Yeah. I think at great personal risk, I'm going to bring up another contentious topic that's related, and that is racism or racial variations. Supposing that some population groups, it's probably better to use that word, race being so contentious, especially when that word is used. Suppose some population groups have worse genes or better genes than other population groups in our subjective collective judgments. What kind of politics or what kind of positive or adverse social consequences would follow from this? And supposing it's true, would it be good if everyone knew it? If everyone knew that some populations had better genes than others? And I'll give an example. I do believe that IQ is genetic, and most people tend to value higher IQ as opposed to lower IQ. But it's difficult because populations vary in average IQ. Each population falls along a bell curve, with the mean IQ being different from another population's IQ. Like the European Jews have an IQ that's between 107 and 115. That's the mean on their bell curve. Whereas for Arabs, they have a mean IQ that's 85. And would it follow that we would prefer European Jews to reproduce over Arabs? And would it follow that this is good for people to know, or would we rather keep people in the dark?
We're not keeping people in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not seeing it the way you see it.
Uh-huh. It's a hypothetical. Supposing it's true.
But it's a hypothetical that's very, very loaded.
Yeah, I know.
So you're asking people to consider something that may be completely non-intuitive to them. I can't even begin to answer your question.
Yeah.
Without being a dick.
I understand. You're holding yourself back, and that may be wise, because I think This is perhaps the conversation that has the most minds out of any field, and it will blow up much sooner than with other conversations.
Well, it's the nature-nurture thing also, in addition to.
Yes. So my reasoning for thinking that IQ is primarily genetic are the studies of identical twins reared apart. That's where you have identical twins where you have the exact same genes between two children that are born to parents that immediately divorce, and one child goes to each parent. When the IQ of those children are studied, those two children tend to have IQs that are very close to each other, and it can be quantified. A 70% correlation coefficient, meaning that 70% of their common IQ can be attributed to their common genes. Whereas two children who are unrelated, one children is adopted, raised in the same household, has a much lower correlation coefficient, more like 30%, meaning that the family upbringing, the same house, does not seem to make much of a difference, just 30%.
So for those two children that are separated pretty much at birth, aside from genetics, what do they have in common?
They have the same.
What processes? What is in common?
The only other thing you can attribute to is the same 9 months in the womb.
Right. And what happens in those 9 months?
The development of the fetus.
Okay. And what goes into the developments of the fetus? I'm getting to hormones.
So
we don't know
yeah,
that
maybe you can tell me about it.
We don't know that it's genetics as much as it could be something about the way the body, the children are exposed to certain types of hormones at certain times. I think that's possibly one of the factors. I'm sorry?
One of the things that I actually had encountered when I was looking into this is that you'll actually find that if a woman is of a certain proportion, if she has large hips, apparently, she is more likely to actually bear intelligent children. Likewise, if she is to consume omega fatty acids, omega-3s, during her pregnancy, the child's IQ will generally be higher. And then on top of that, you have breastfeeding. And how long were they breastfed?
Right. There's a hypothesis that goes into the larger hip connection to a smarter child, and the hypothesis, my preferred hypothesis, is that smarter people tend to have larger heads, larger brains. And when you have larger heads or a larger brain, then you need a larger hip canal to go through. So the families that have larger hips would therefore have children with larger heads, and larger heads would mean greater intelligence.
I don't think that's it.
Yeah. That means that people with big heads would be smarter.
And it's true. There's actually a 40% correlation between brain volume and IQ.
And then please talk to me in regards to the woman who basically has essentially no brain, and she is a perfectly intelligent woman. Massive head, though.
You're saying no brain can still mean intelligent?
Let me find you this woman, all right?
Okay. Yeah, I think there's way too many factors to draw these conclusions. I personally don't believe that there's such a thing as race.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of popular mistakes that go into this, and I do think that's one of them. I do think that race really does exist starkly in biology, and it's not just about skin color, because whenever we do have whenever we do have variations in geography among the populations, of any species, there's always genetic variations of any sorts. And among humans, there are racial variations concerning, like, immune system. Some races have immunity to diseases, and others do not. That's why the Native Americans, 90%.
I don't think there's any races. So
90,
my point, the reason I say that is that there's not a simple, distinct boundary between one and the other. It's a spectrum, and you can have certain components that are considered part of a race and not have other components, and you'll still fall subjectively onto that spectrum in a certain place. Meaning this, I know a couple who had twins. They're multiracial. Their kids are multiracial. There's no way you would know that they were brother and sister at all, and they would be determined to be of different races visually.
Yes.
And that's really what it comes down to is a visual perspective on race.
Do you believe that dog breeds exist?
Breeds, yes, but not races.
Well, there's no hard and fast boundary between dog breeds and dogs of
I don't
different...
think the implications are the same, and that's part of the reason that I don't. I think that the consequences of establishing racial divides serves a purpose that is not conducive to humanity.
Well, there are medical applications. For example, some races tend to be lactose tolerant. That means they can drink milk as adults without throwing up, and other people of other races are less likely to be lactose tolerant.
And why is that?
Because the ancestors of Europeans had cows, and in times of famine, the people who are naturally selected to have lactose tolerance could drink milk to keep themselves alive.
Okay, so what that sounds
real
to me
quick,
like it's social.
does my mic sound
that
good?
Sounds social.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That doesn't
Okay,
sound to
thank
me
you.
like genetic, like it's genetic. It's social.
But it is genetic. Lactose tolerance really is genetic. If your mother is lactose tolerant and your father is lactose tolerant, then you yourself are very likely to be lactose tolerant.
Right, but what you said before is that it was due to the society. That it was due to. Let me finish.
There was a natural selection of European ancestors for lactose tolerance.
I understand that.
It was a natural selection on the genes.
Do we know that it was a natural selection? How do we know it was a natural selection of genes, though, and not that the people that drank more milk survived for whatever possible reasons?
That's what natural selection is.
I understand that. So, but what I'm saying is, if other people were exposed to the milk, they may be lactose tolerant, and maybe they just weren't exposed to it. So that it becomes a geographical thing as well, or to different types of milk. Because what happens with lactose intolerance also is when people stop drinking milk in their teen years, and then they try to start later, they can't tolerate it nearly as well.
Mm-hmm. I think lactose tolerance can be induced with enough drinking milk, even among those people who are not born lactose tolerant, without lactose tolerant parents, but it's more difficult. It is commonly thought in science that lactose tolerance really is genetic. Other applications.
I never knew that. That's interesting. I always thought it was partially behavioral.
Mm-hmm.
It is genetic. If they do not have the enzymes to catalyze the milk in their stomach, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Don't we lose
that's genetic.
enzymes though if we stop?
But no, we don't actually. You're either born with the capability to produce those enzymes, or you're not. And a mostly among Chinese people, you'll find that they cannot tolerate milk. They'll just completely become covered in their own feces, and it's because their stomachs just can't tolerate it. They'll just shit themselves.
Right, but do you think? I know that we have the capacity. What you're saying is, genetically, we have the capacity to have the enzymes. Do we lose? Do you know if we lose the capacity if we stop using those enzymes to break down milk?
No, you either have the capacity to create those enzymes or you don't. And those people who, and I'm just using Chinese people in this instance because I know that there are, like my ex-sister-in-law, she was lactose intolerant, and she can't even have ice cream. She becomes violently ill because she cannot break it down.
It says it's environmentally or genetically induced.
She can't break it down.
I'm looking at Wikipedia, so it's not the greatest source, but it does say
You could always look at the see, Wikipedia is usually good for sciencey stuff if you can actually see the
footnotes,
the citation,
footnotes,
and what they're actually
if
linked
I may, I have a response to that.
Let's see if this.
If it is environmentally induced, then it's still genetic.
Well, Johns Hopkins. It's a link from Johns Hopkins. I don't know what the statistics are. It might be very few people are influenced environmentally.
Okay, Shake, can you let Hylas speak? He has something to say.
Yeah.
Hylas, are you still there?
Thank you. I'm sorry, my browser lags a little bit, so when I try and hit the mic, it takes a second. But if it is environmentally induced, your genetics is still built that way, because the reason that you got lactose intolerant from whatever had happened to you is because your genes make it so that if that happens to you, you will become lactose intolerant.
Yeah. So his point that there's an interrelationship between nature and nurture here. That's in nature, one's genes can make it easier for the influences of nurture to happen.
According to Johns Hopkins, it says most cases of lactose intolerance develop over a period of many years in adults. So I think lactose intolerance may be genetic in children, but not as much so in adults.
Right.
I would like to stress that they aren't interrelated. They are the same thing.
I didn't know about.
Welcome, D. Blinkhorn.
Hi, D.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, D.
And I'm not in the. I can put it in the link in the YouTube.
Another application of the genetic variations, the medical application of the genetic variations among populations is blood type. Blood types have geographic distributions. There are maps of blood types that would be what we expect with racial variations or genetic population distributions of genetics. For example, there's one tribe in Peru who has one and only one blood type. And if you needed to make like an emergency blood transfusion with a person in that tribe, it may be wise. I'm not a doctor, but I'm thinking there would be a medical application to such knowledge if you knew that 100% of the people in this tribe had the same blood type. So there are physiological and medical and microbiological variations of every sort among genetic population groups, which may be a reason for us to understand that race is biological. Even if we don't call it race, we can call it ancestry.
But it's not. Ancestry and race are two different things, though.
I think they're the same.
I don't think there's a genetic study that supports the claim of variation based on the perceived differences.
The variations, the medical and physiological variations are plainly there.
No, they're not plainly there. They're plainly there to you, but it's not. Can you demonstrate that?
Like the distribution of blood types among the races?
If we're going to talk about race, is there anything that we're basing this on besides what is apparent?
Yeah, I can give you like a study of the blood type distributions among the races, if you like.
Right, but that could be geographic. It could be amongst a lot of different factors.
Well, you know, blood type is genetic.
I understand that, but it could be based on geography. What blood types predominate in a certain geography over time?
It is about geography, because if you're in a certain region, then you breed with other people in that region, and those people will tend to share the same blood type because of the shared genetics, because of the shared geography.
Right, I understand that, but I'm not saying that it's race. Geography and race aren't the same thing.
So maybe we should use another word instead of race. Let's say.
Well, that's why I don't think there is race. I think there's ethnicities.
We can say ethnicities.
Well, the thing is, it's like what we perceive as race now and what was perceived as race 150 years ago. Irish and Italian were considered two completely different races, and now they're both considered part of the white or Caucasian race, and really most of white Caucasians have no Caucasian ancestry at all. So,
right.
I mean, Caucasian Asiatic people.
Yeah, race has an ambiguity in the point that there are large genetic groups and there are small genetic divisions, like in any family tree. There is a group that covers many groups, many subgroups, and there's maybe just a single subgroup, like a single family. Maybe one single clan can be considered another race from a neighboring clan. But if you go higher in the hierarchy, you can call them both the same race, and if you cover a whole continent, then they're a single race. There is no universal definition, although nowadays it does tend to cover like three major groups: the Caucasoid, the Negroid, and the Mongoloid. Three big races that supposedly covers the whole human species.
So there is actually, if you want to talk about race, there is actually more genetic variation within some tribal groups in Africa than there is, say, between, and I hate the word Negroid because it is kind of an insulting term, but say a white European, a black African, and an Asian.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I think it was
minor and superficial. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, people who lived in areas where it was, you know, better for your survival to breed and raise dairy animals might have more of a propensity for the lactose tolerance or for the lactase enzyme.
Yeah, there's no doubt that major races have a hell of a lot of diversity within their own race, but there would be tendencies of genetic variations between the races all the same, and we really can make good empirical mathematical sense.
But no, we can't. No.
Yeah, we can.
There might be tendencies, but not to draw distinct conclusions to. Example, some people say that the Jews are a race.
Yeah.
Yet there's black Jews and white Jews.
Yeah. And
Any?
even so, there are genetic markers and genetic tendencies that all Jews have in common, and you get more specific, you get greater tendencies the more
I don't
narrow you
actually
get.
think that's the case beyond ethnicity.
Uh-huh.
The Jews of Ethiopia don't have the problem with Tay-Sachs. That's a European, that's an Ashkenazi Jewish thing.
Yeah. Well.
I think that as we go on in time, it's just that I think we're all an individual race, each person essentially.
Well, that's true too. We're all single species.
Plus, if you want to figure, especially in America, there has been so much mixing between different races and ethnicities that
everybody's becoming
kind of meaningless.
Why don't we just help it along, like whatchamacallit, Russell Peters actually said, why don't we just, help it and make it interesting? Why don't we get like a German and a Newfie and make goofies? Why don't we get someone from Holland and get someone from Cuba and make little ice cubes? That type of stuff.
Yeah, and I do think race will become more and more homogenized in the future with more and more international travel and more interbreeding between the many races. But you can actually quantify what percentage you are European and what percentage you are Native American and what percentage you are African, and you can make probability judgments based on that.
Yeah, if you think of, say, two populations of any species that can breed with one another and produce fertile offspring, and then say put one on one island, one on the other, and they can't get to each other at all. And then you run the clock forward a few million years, they're going to be significantly genetically different.
Yep.
And the same thing did happen among human populations. Now, it's true that the particular differences are messy, and that there's a lot of variation between what you might want to call the borders. But just like if you look at a rainbow, it's a seamless continuum of one color changing to the next, but yet we say, red, yellow, blue, green, whatever, even though there's actually no one could actually draw a particular line where, okay, now it's the end of blue and it's the beginning of green or whatever.
Right. If we did have realistic thought about the biological existence of races, or whatever you'd like to call it, then maybe some good can come of it, but maybe some bad can come of it as well. We human beings do have a tendency to hate the out group, or hate the group perceived to be inferior. And maybe it's true that more bad can come of that truthful knowledge than good.
Yeah, in which case we wouldn't want to promulgate it.
Yeah, what tends to happen among the medical community or in biology is that they work with the concepts of race, but they do not call it race. They call it ancestry or population groups, or something along those lines. So the science happens, but not using a word that's so contentious, which may be the best way to go.
Yeah, I think the word race has so much political and psychological baggage attached to it, for good reason, obviously, that it's just probably better just to not even use it in the context of describing like particular populations with genetic tendencies toward, like you said, lactose tolerance versus not lactose tolerance, or higher production of melanin or anything like that. It's probably better to describe that not as race, but some other thing. Like haplogroup is a word we use now that is more accurate genetically, and it doesn't have any of the political or psychological baggage.
Right. I did know someone online who would encourage prejudices against people of other haplogroups and uphold her own haplogroup. That was a strange revelation for me. And in Japan, they can actually be prejudice against people of other blood types, because they would associate personality falsely with blood types.
Right.
It's a strange pseudoscience.
You want to talk about how picky people can be? I'm Rh negative, and I actually tried to participate in a Facebook group for Rh negative people, and they kept taking down my posts because I'm not a redhead, and you only count as a real Rh negative if you're a ginger.
What if you dyed your
You
hair?
have no
People
soul.
can be that weird about it.
What if you dyed your hair?
Yeah, they wouldn't know.
So, Rh negative, you say Rh negative, that's a blood type for
Yeah.
those who don't know.
Now, the rhesus factor. I don't have
Yeah.
the blood.
So prejudices could happen about anything.
Gods in my
Yeah,
face.
they can. And often do.
Rh negative, but not a true Rh negative.
Yeah, because I'm not a redhead. Of course, to be fair, it was a British-based group, and in Britain and actually Australia, I'm not sure about New Zealand, there is a lot of prejudice against redheads.
Isn't that a Sherlock Holmes story, even? I think it is.
I don't remember that one.
I think it is, where he solved the mystery for a guy that was a redhead that was part of an organization that was very secretive of redheads.
The Adventure of the Red-Headed League. Is that the name of it?
Is that it?
The story. Yeah, The Adventure of the Red-Headed League. There's the Wikipedia link.
Okay. So yeah, I think don't they say in France there's a lot of redheaded people now because of Thomas Jefferson? Because he spent a lot of time there.
Well,
I'm just saying.
there is a thing with Mongolian people having a particular makeup of genetics that is unique to them only, but almost everyone there has it, and they think it may have come from Genghis Khan because apparently he had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children, or hundreds maybe, and they all kind of bear that particular genetic marker.
But wouldn't he have had children in other parts of the world? Because he conquered like everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I don't think they've tested every other country for this marker. They just started it in
I've heard that though
Mongolia.
before. What you were saying, I've heard that too.
I wonder how many people. I lost my train of thought in mid-sentence. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. I'm going to leave the chat because I have some work to finish up, and I'll probably play poker, and I'll see you all later.
Take care. It was nice to meet you guys. I'm gonna leave too.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye now. And now silence.
Yeah.
So how about that faith?
Is that supposed to be the topic?
Technically the room was called Interfaith, and I came in here and they were talking about eugenics and genetics and so on.
I think he's doing a hangout tomorrow. I think it was tomorrow on eugenics. So I was a little confused.
But can we actually have an interfaith room where it's mostly all the one thing?
Hinduism is the one for religion. Discuss.
Okay, what has not been said already about religion? I don't know. I really don't. I'm finding it a little
It's all
bit
been said.
Yeah, it's been said, it's been done. I can't really do much to it after.
But do you believe in God?
No.
Me neither.
I believe in all the gods. I do. I really do. I believe in all of them.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Reuben says that he invited 2 Christians, and neither one of them got a chance to speak on Christianity. Why is that, do you suppose, Reuben?
They should know. I assume Reuben's not going to talk on mic, so don't think I'm cutting him off. But what was I going to say? I assume that they should have the good sense not to, push the topic, because Christians tend not to be able to defend themselves against atheists. I don't identify as an atheist. I don't side with anybody, but I look at those debates and
I don't mind calling myself an atheist. Nah.
I was an atheist for a couple of years.
Why though?
Because it defines me pretty aptly.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Wayman is back.
Would you? Is God like an issue to you though? Like, do you go through your life thinking there is no God?
Whenever someone asks me the question, I then therefore think about it and go, no, I don't.
So you would, pretty much affirm. If I were to say there's no God, would you agree to that? You would say, yep, there's not one.
At that point, I don't really care. If you want to affirm that there is no God, then that's you affirming that there is no God. I just don't think that there is one.
Does it mean anything to you that there isn't?
Nope. Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Would it mean anything to you if there was?
Well, maybe if it was apparent, I guess it would do. Because then, if there was one, then there would be one.
It is apparent though.
Obviously not. There's
very apparent.
If it
Very
was
apparent.
apparent, well, let me put it this way: if that God was apparent, he apparently would know what it would take for me to apparently believe in him. So therefore,
Okay, what if God, capital G God, is not a personal being? What if God is just the consciousness that underlies the universe?
I would just call it the consciousness then.
If it's a consciousness,
how would you
person.
know there was a consciousness underlying the universe? What evidence would there be for it? Would the universe go, hey, here I am, I'm the consciousness of the universe?
Yeah.
How would you know?
The thing is, if the consciousness is not a personal being, it's not going to show up and say, I am the consciousness of the universe. It's just going to be there.
Are you saying like it's the ground of being itself? Like, what's that philosopher said that?
Yeah.
But how would you know?
If it's a consciousness with agency, it's a personal being.
Yeah, if it's just consciousness, I would just call it. Yeah.
Well, see, the bottom line is whether if a God exists or if 20,000 gods exist, where's the evidence for any of these? I mean, really, something that you can, go, okay, this tells me that there is a real, true God, whether he's personal or not, or he's nature, or the Christian God, or if he's Allah, or Buddha. Not Buddha. Buddha wasn't a god, was he? Brahman, Shiva, whatever. There has to be something to go, okay, evidence of some kind, something to point to, here he is. Or here I am, rather. that people can see and relate to. That's the thing.
I just got to a point where I realized that there are just too many freaky coincidences and connections between different people and events for there not to be some kind of unified consciousness to be underlying the whole thing.
But how do you relate whatever you're talking about to proving this exists, though? That's the thing.
Yes, you can't really, so I don't push the idea that there is a God and other people. If you don't believe in God, it's like, well, okay, don't. You know, because ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, it's not what you believe, it's how you behave.
So do you believe that you will be conscious in some form after you die?
I hope not. I just want to blend back into the universe.
I'm curious why, I think it was Hylas, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce your name, who thinks that God is a parent.
How is he a parent?
Yeah, well, it seems that it's not so apparent, not as apparent as he might be portraying. There's a large group of people who are non-resistant to belief in God.
It's apparent. You're just not looking for it.
No, of course you don't have to look
Wait a
for it.
minute. There are those of us that have looked, and we ain't seeing nothing. How is he a parent?
You're not looking. You're not looking. How can you see?
No. You're saying you are claiming that we are not looking. There are those of us, I'm sure, that have in the past have really looked to find if there was a God or
I
a
see it.
deity.
If I
How
see
do you
it,
think?
you can
Point
see
out,
it.
point something out that we can relate to.
You could make that argument just the other way. I think
Look
it's
at
apparent.
you.
I think it's apparent that no God exists, and you're just not looking for the evidence that God doesn't exist.
You can make whatever argument you want, but I'm just telling you what I think you need.
It's not an argument. It's the truth. When we say, a lot of us, when we say that we don't see any evidence, and that we have been looking, we are being honest, and we're telling the truth. We're not lying. We're trying to start an argument. We're just being very honest in the fact that we have been looking. We are sincere, but we haven't seen anything that convinces us.
Yeah, Hylas, you know me. What I'm saying is generally the case because I'm somewhat bored with the topic because it doesn't really make any sense. I get these people from various amounts of different religious backgrounds that actually come up to me and say that their particular, imaginary friend wants this relationship with me. Well, if they want this relationship with me, they have my phone number. They know where to find me. They can get in touch with me at any given time. And if they don't, well, I have no reason to care.
But they're saying you have caller ID and you won't pick up that phone call.
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
I'm receiving no ring.
Yeah, I'm not making the claim that God is actually. It's apparent that no God exists. I think that either way, it's highly contestable. But I don't know which one of you is which. Blinkhorn or Hylas, because you're both blank pictures, and I typically tie names to the pictures on here.
Hold your mouse over one, and
one of you is making the argument that we are resistant to the belief in God.
That's Hylas, not me.
Okay, well then Hylas, you're making the argument that we are actually resistant to belief in God, and that's just not the case. And if you're going to make that argument, you're going to have to back it up with something. It's just a non-substantive claim, and we're just going to reject it until you can back it up with something.
He's playing devil's advocate.
That's pretty tough because I think that a lot of Christians say, oh, if you draw nigh to God, God will draw nigh to you. I've read that in a lot of Wesleyan books. I'm an agnostic, but I love religious literature. I could talk about this all day. However, I think that a lot of times, especially out of Judaism, they don't proselytize. I don't really understand what it is about the recruiting. Like prophets like Ezekiel said, hey, I'm on a mission. I tell the people, it's my responsibility to tell them. If they believe, they don't, fine. It's on them. But at least I told them, and it's not on me. So I really wish Christians and God's fan clubs would do that. and maybe not be so hard on everybody else when they don't get it, you know?
But when they read something like the Great Commission in the Bible, they feel compelled to proselytize.
I don't understand why. I'll never understand why
it is part of their faith.
I'll never understand why atheists and agnostics are so annoyed by proselytizing. I don't. It doesn't bother me. Why would I be annoyed by somebody saying, "Hey, why don't you come to my church? Jesus loves you." I don't mind that at all.
So don't get me wrong. Just because I'm an agnostic, I don't mind the proselytizing. I'll have anybody come in the house and talk. I'd rather talk religion than anything else. But some people are, you know. Some people are.
Seth, I have no problem with people, spouting out anything that they actually say. It's their right to say it. However, when they're the ones in charge of making rules that affect my life, that's when I'm going to have a bit of an issue.
But that's not proselytizing.
No, but it is part of their agenda to proselytize.
Some people's agendas, not everyone's agenda.
Well, if you're part of a certain group of people and you're going in one certain direction, they generally don't stop the people who are stopping my rights.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, I've spoken to G-Man. Everyone in here knows G-Man and how off the wall he can be. I've never heard him say anything to the effect that he would actually has anything against the separation of church and state. When I've spoken to him privately, he's advocated for the separation of church and state. I don't see. There's a lot of Christians that understand the separation of church and state protects them as much as it protects atheists.
Oh, of course, but
people in groups tend to make bad decisions. You take a Christian who might be in a church, they're going to say something totally different than when they're by themselves. So I think it's the group mentality that they start to adopt and identify with, and it replaces their own. I don't have a group. I can go from sheep pen to sheep pen and visit anybody I want. That's why I like the term agnostic.
I don't mind atheist. I can go from sheep pen to sheep pen as well, and I don't mind the term atheist. I can just go, nope, this water's too warm.
I think there's been some confusion about well, maybe not confusion, but like argument over the definition of what it means to be an atheist and what it means to be an agnostic. Like, I think what you're talking about, total twist, is that right?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're technically an agnostic. I'm not sure. Like,
I'm both, to be quite honest. I'm an agnostic atheist. Agnosticism is a comment about knowledge. Do I know God exists? No. Do I believe He exists? Now that's the statement about theism, which would be the atheist part. I would be saying no. So therefore I am technically both.
Right, but you have to acknowledge that a lot of people, even some atheists or self-proclaimed atheists, will say that atheism means an affirmation that there is no God.
Well, then they're Gnostic atheists, because then they're actually saying that they know there is no God, and that would
That's a good term, by the way.
I'm a Gnostic.
If they want to run with that term, go for it. I'm not gonna, whatever floats their boat. I don't really care. It's, when someone asks me the question, do you believe in God? The answer is going to be no. So therefore, atheist.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have varying degrees. You have the strong atheists, and then you go on down to agnostic, then you go on down to
you've got gradients of everything. Yeah, you've got gradients of believers as well. You've got your Gnostic theists who belong to a specific flavor of religions, and then you have your agnostic theists, which are generally called deists.
There's an argument to be made that Alfred isn't an agnostic, at least not merely an agnostic. He does either believe that God exists or he does not believe God exists. That is a true dichotomy. And not believing in God would make him an atheist, and believing in a God would make him some sort of theist.
I do happen to subject myself to one portion of agnosticism that, in some terms, an agnostic, when they say they're agnostic, is just another way of saying they're an atheist. When you have no, and it comes down to the idea of do you have a particular bit of information, do you believe, for instance, if I say that there's a refrigerator, and this refrigerator, I'm telling you, there happens to be an apple inside of it, you don't have the information to know whether or not that apple is in there or not. You either believe whether the apple's in there or not.
Yeah, I tend to be very skeptical, and I know there are extreme atheists out there who would say to me, "Oh, there's no such thing as agnosticism," and I love that too because Christians would say the same thing. Are there atheist proselytizers? You bet. Are there atheist ministers and missionaries? Oh yeah, they roll in this stuff, and they use a lot of the same techniques that they carried over from maybe when they left evangelical movements. If they were from one part of fundamentalism, they jump right into being anti-fundamentalist fundamentalists. That's what I did not want to be. So I stop in the middle, right? So now I can float between the two groups, both atheism and learn something, and Christians and believers, because I love the biblical literature and text, where they're more accepting of agnostics because they always associate atheism with extreme atheism in the back of their minds.
That's not your fault, though, and it's not my fault for them not being tolerant of it.
No, it's definitely not.
Arguing that you're not a mere agnostic, or there are no such thing as mere agnostics, is not necessarily extreme atheism or extreme theism. There's nothing extreme about it. It's just being led by the logic of the argument.
Yeah.
But what would you say? Do you believe in alien life? Like, you'd have to just be an agnostic on that because, I mean, unless you wanted to have a belief claim, but then that's separate.
Do you want the simple rundown? I would say I'm a deist in regards to alien life. I don't know if they exist or not, but I believe they're out there. How's that?
Well, I think my skepticism kind of works in my job also, just on a secular level, where the issue is where I have to be exact for quality control. And I'm not going to believe that some measurement is some measurement. I'm going to go check. And if it is not that, then we have an issue and I need to shut it down. So I think that carries over in my ideas too. If somebody said, like your example, there's a refrigerator with an apple in it, I'm going to go get the apple out of the fridge. And if there's no fridge and no apple, I'm going to be very skeptical of you telling me something next time. That's what evangelical fundamentalism did to me, I believe, and I think, and I got a bad hand at that. And so I've been very skeptical, even though I love the literature.
No, but the important thing to keep in mind here is that belief is a subset of knowledge, that everything that you know, you believe. And some of the things you believe, you know, but not all of them. So, again, even though you might not know that there's a God, you do have a belief. You either believe that God exists or you don't.
Yeah, but the belief is an assumption, and when that assumption is wrong even one time, it creates skepticism.
Well, it doesn't matter whether you're skeptic or not. You still either believe that there's a God or you don't believe. But that is a true dichotomy.
Here, let me put it this way. I'll forward, and I know that you don't know whether or not God exists, but can you tell me, do you believe He exists or not?
Do you have to affirm one way or the other? I mean, sometimes you have to be on the fence. Like, I'm on the fence.
I'm not asking. I'm not asking to affirm one way or the other. I'm asking him to affirm or not affirm. That's.
I could tell you, I don't know He exists. That is on the fence, but I believe. This is the belief part. I don't believe He exists. Based on my I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I'm with that too. I don't believe that He exists. I usually, the reason why I'm going off camera because I'm eating here. My good wife just made me some yummy fish.
Nom, nom, nom.
I don't have enough to feed you all, but I keep on to it for both heritage and sentimental reasons because my family are all still evangelical. I totally identify with why they are, but I have no interest in being a part of that. You know what I mean? So if I go and they want to have a word of prayer, I don't care. If they tell me, I'm praying for you, that's fine, because really what they're saying to me is, I care about you. On the other hand, I can still have some really good theological conversations about suffering and death with them and find that enjoyable.
Are you making the claim that atheists can't do that?
No, I believe they can. I believe they can.
I fail to see the point then. Sorry.
Well, the point is, for me, it's my opinion as an individual that it's easier for me in my environment to claim agnosticism agnosticism rather than atheism.
Right. I
So
don't.
some people might be easier to just say, hey, I'm atheist. But me, I hang out with a lot of Christian people.
But we're not. I'm not asking you what you claim to Christians. I'm asking you what you are.
Atheist, agnostic.
Okay. That makes sense then.
I suppose I would have to say I'm an agnostic pantheist. I mean, not philosophically, on a practical level, I would have to say I'm a polytheist. I worship Kali, but I do pay reverence to the other Hindu gods. And Thor. I'm very fond of Thor.
It's that long here, ain't it?
Yeah, I lived in Norway and I did not see any ice giants or any Viking gods, sadly.
Well, see, you didn't see any ice giants because Thor has been protecting the country and keeping them out. But he
And
does.
also, yeah, I just didn't happen to see any Viking gods either. I saw a lot of Vikings. Viking gods.
Yeah, probably all of them were in heavy metal bands.
Death metal, Norwegian death metal bands.
Viking metal. Viking metal is the shit. It really is.
Enter one guy. He's called Amon something. Got long blonde hair. Heavy metal band.
Yeah, so I guess from my experience, when I come in contact, and if I said that I was just straight up atheist with, say, evangelical Christians, I would automatically be put in this category of non-compromised kind of thing, where a real conversation doesn't happen. They're just quoting me apologetics. Like, I don't really care about that. I want to know what they think, and I like to pick their brain. So usually in my environment, when I talk to the evangelicals that live around me, if I were to claim to be straight up atheist, I would have a problem getting a true statement or true thoughts from them, because they would go right into the mode of, oh my God, I need to protect myself from him because my belief system says he's an outsider.
Right, Alfred, and I don't know if you could tell, but I happen to be black. I'm just wearing white makeup and dressing white and talking white because when I'm around white people, I don't want them to think that I'm some kind of black thug.
I was about to say the same thing, Alfred. I mean, I honestly just, I'm up front to them, and if they want to behave in that manner, let them behave in that manner. I mean, it's their loss, really, for not actually, considering me as just a person.
Yeah, I'm
Same
willing to
here.
give that up though for the conversation. I'm not too worried about it.
Well, that's grand. I mean, that's okay. I personally, if they want to be uptight about that, that's their choice. I think that if I present myself as an upfront atheist to them and I still manage to have a good conversation with them, that is more helpful to them in future, to the next atheist they encounter. Because then they're not going to immediately feel defensive or attacked.
Right. I mean, you make the same argument any minority that's looked down upon. I mean, basically that's your argument, is atheists are looked upon in a negative light. Therefore, I pretend that I'm not an atheist. And the gay community has done that for a while, and it didn't seem to do too well for them when they started coming out. People started looking at them differently and accepting them. And I think atheists should do the same thing. I think atheists should identify as atheists when it's safe, not always. I mean, if you live in Saudi Arabia, don't come out as an atheist. But if you live in Southern California like I do, and you're not in any danger, then yeah, when somebody talks to you about these things, you should probably say, yeah, I'm an atheist. And when you speak clearly and concisely and you don't judge them for going to church and you accept their invitation to go to church maybe, if that's what you want to do on a Sunday, they could see atheists as what they really are, other people who just don't believe that there's a God. And some of them have good reasons for it.
Plus, when I came on YouTube about 6 years ago, I didn't really like being associated with atheism because a lot of that I seen was extreme atheism. And like after reading, Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung and all those guys, they kind of stopped me in the middle because the idea of the metaphor and psychology and all that. So
what's extreme atheism?
It's someone who just extremely doesn't want to deal with any religious stuff. I think that's the anti-theist, I believe.
Or going out of their way to mock religious tradition. Just straight up mockery, though.
I mean, but then again,
Is that what Alfred? I mean, no offense. I was asking Alfred because he's used the term more than anyone else. He used it a few times.
Yeah,
I'm curious what
that's
he
about
means.
what it is. You know, and I seen that, and I know that even though I'm a non-believer, like I still see the community and church community as being
Can I ask you a question?
a very a very important role and playing a very important role in community. You know, like my little cousin, she would have never got to where she was if it was not for a church community. So I say, hey, don't watch any of my videos, man, because like you need this group of people to help you out, and this is a good spot for you. However, it was not for me, you know.
I don't mind militant atheists. I mean, the more I see of them, it doesn't matter. That's them as an individual. I don't care in that respect. I only care about if the definition applies. If the definition applies, then it applies.
Do you mind militant theists?
I don't mind militant theists, no.
Militant theists actually do militant things, right? Militant theists fly planes into buildings. Militant people who are accused of militant atheism are just public speakers.
No, we get accused of, Stalin, Mao, all of them, and we get accused of those all the time. Even though I don't really particularly agree, because communism is just another form of religion. It's just state religion. I don't really. There are going to be some bad atheists out there that do militant things against religious people. I mean, there's probably an individual atheist running around there that's probably targeting someone, and I can't deny that probably can happen. But that's an individual. One thing, thankfully, being for me, recognizing is that these are individual people doing individual things.
I think that's the problem when we overgeneralize either way. Like, and I agree with Seth that when you talk about militant atheists, usually except for the rare case that you mentioned, which I've probably never even heard of a case like that, although I acknowledge they could exist. But in the case of militant theism, I mean, it doesn't take long to think of, I mean, literally militant action on behalf of their beliefs. So I think the label of militant atheism versus the label of militant theism is a little bit one-sided, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many strong atheists going out there and burning down,
blowing up church. Yeah, are there?
Not that I have heard in the news. Not really. Usually when they get to that point, it's because they are so fervent about people's individual rights that they don't go ahead and do that. If someone were to actually do something in that respect, I would think it would have to be out of pure hatred for, or the intolerance of, the religion that they're targeting.
What really annoys me is these people, like if it's just conversation and someone just happens to bring up like, oh, we're going to church, so I can't come to your luncheon or whatever. Someone will be like, oh, you go to church? You actually believe that stuff? You idiot, blah, blah, blah. They'll just, no matter what, they'll just always bring up an argument. If anyone even, if there's any opportunity, they'll just grab at it, and it's just really frustrating.
And they're just a jerk.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, they're not just, that they get the label of douchebag, but it's the same thing. It's just an individual being a douchebag. Just the same as, you get yourself someone who actually hears, oh, you don't go to church, you are such a bad person.
Yeah,
you are the worst shit that has ever walked the earth. I mean, it's just them being a douchebag.
Yeah, when I think it's like someone being a strong atheist, it'd be like someone like, Aaron Ra or Matt Dillahunty or, people that are in the forefront of, if you want to call it a movement, the atheist movement. They're the ones that'll get out there on the states of the Capitol, and make their voice known and stuff like that. And they're kind of like the bulldozers that kind of clear the way for the others, to follow behind them. I mean, that's how I kind of look at it sometimes. They're the more outspoken, and they get out there, on the lines, if you want to put it that way.
They actually are, I think, pretty. They're not just outspoken, but I've seen many like debates with Matt Dillahunty. I mean, just watch any of the clips from his TV show. Who's the guy that does Feringula? PZ Myers. They actually can be just straight up rude a lot of times. They'll just personally insult people.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem like an effective strategy at getting their point across. Everyone's just going to put their guard up.
Who actually was doing? He did a lecture, and basically a speech lecture in front of somebody, a whole group of people, and basically said, "Don't be an asshole whenever you're talking to these people. Just don't be an asshole. Don't be a jerk."
Yeah.
But then again, it's important for people to know that generally you need to move out of groupthink. Those groupthink tanks, basically. So you're not just jumping from one paddy wagon of people straight into another just because you like being in a group or a network. Okay, yes, it's nice to be in a network. However, you are an individual, and you shouldn't be holding up individuals like you would do heroes. Heroes will only disappoint you. These are people. They are jerks. People can be jerks.
And there's also the thing about, depending on the circumstance, sometimes you have to be loud. You have to be forceful, especially when certain religious groups are trying to push an agenda, through government or through laws, or they're trying to get, as an example, creationism taught as science in schools. Now that's where atheists need to get up on their feet and say, no fucking way. Pardon my language, but things like that come up, and you have to have some strong voices out there to try to stop that.
Yeah, but it's not just the atheists who have to stand up on their feet. It's just people who know the science. And what was the gentleman who Ken Miller? Ken Miller is the one who actually did the Dover trial. He's a practicing Catholic. He's not atheist, but he knows generally that without evolution, all of biology is basically gobbledygook. So you don't have to be an atheist to actually stamp out, things that are nonsensical.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Carlton's here. We're in trouble.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, that's one thing that annoyed me was with the Rational Response Squad back in the day, and a lot of members left at that because, they were all over the place, and it was ended up, where they would send their minions to destroy channels, and it was crazy.
I'd heard of some of that stuff happening. I've only been involved in the community here for probably not even a year yet.
I just think whether you're more the outspoken type or the more strategically oriented, taking the approach of having a sensitivity toward their view. But either way, in either case, I think I don't think there's ever a place for personal insult or just being straight up rude and obnoxious. I think that's just completely counterproductive and totally unnecessary.
I would disagree. I would want people to basically get over personal attacks and insults so we could just get on with the discussion. It's common that people have this hostility bias. People who talk about the other side shouldn't be rude or make ad hominem arguments typically have this hostility bias where they just see hostility where there isn't necessarily one. Like, for example, with the gentleman who said that Matt Dillahunty is rude. A lot of times Matt Dillahunty says, so what, to an argument, or that's an argument from ignorance, and people see that as rude. It's not. These are.
But what about when he calls him an idiot and tells him to shut up and tells him, I mean, I've heard that countless times when there's just a straight-up ad hominem attack. Same with, just read PZ Myers' blog.
Telling somebody to shut up or they're an idiot is not an ad hominem.
Telling someone they're an idiot?
Sometimes
not an ad hominem.
Sometimes the people he's telling that to are idiots.
Whether they're idiots or not, it's not an ad hominem.
What would be
an
ad hominem?
It would be an ad hominem if you rejected their argument because you think they're an idiot.
If I said Carlton, if Carlton was giving me, if I was balding and Carlton was giving me advice, and I said, Carlton, you wouldn't know, you're bald. How would you know anything about regrowing hair? That's an ad hominem. I'm attacking his character as an argument, or his person. I'm attacking him as a person.
I thought that was poisoning the well.
I get a lot of those terms mixed up.
I think Matt could do a better job because
more on the order of
Okay, from what I understand, ad hominem attacks are basically where you offer an insult to someone as the replacement for a valid argument to the points they were making. So,
No,
for instance,
ad hominem literally means against the person, right?
yeah.
Well, whatever
Yeah.
calling someone an idiot is, I still think it's rude. I mean,
Well, it might be rude, but at
Well,
some
it's
point
very
somebody.
polite, but an ad hominem argument, well, actually, the classic would be William Lane Craig saying that the reason John Loftus is an atheist is because he's got this porn addiction that he doesn't want to give up. Which I'm still waiting for the lawsuit.
Seriously?
Yeah, you're right about that, Loretto. I was just saying that too. Like we try to be nice to people, but I think Matt should take a balance that when he has a heavy hitter giving rib jabs subtly, he should keen on that and give him right back. You know, I found that works excellent. Like a person is going to be respectful to me, I usually give that back. But if they're just there to play around, me too. You know, and it's very enjoyable. It's part of rhetoric, and it's excellent. But you know, there's a time and place for it. You know,
I think
I
it's all just it's all just theater at that point. I mean, there's no actual motivation to take a respectable approach to the other person's argument and treat him with dignity. It becomes theatrical. It's just a boxing match.
Right, but if they want theater, you always should put on a good show.
Yeah, see, I think the opposite. I think you should just stay kind and respectful no matter what the other person's doing, and that will just highlight their own problems.
I kind of, you know, Seth and I may take a different approach, I think, but I think I tend to lean more toward DB. In that,
That's what I said.
For me,
I agree with Blinkhorn.
Oh, okay.
Can I actually just say something, Seth? You are absolutely right. I just read up what an ad hominem here, and it says abusive ad hominem usually involves attacking the traits of an opponent, which you would have given a good example of, the traits of an opponent as means to invalidate their argument. Equating someone's character with the soundness of their argument is a logical fallacy. Mere verbal abuse in the absence of an argument, however, is not an ad hominem nor any kind of logical fallacy. So, just calling someone an idiot, apparently, not an ad hominem.
Yeah, it'd be like calling someone an idiot because of maybe their nationality or their sex.
Well,
or
I mean,
whatever. You know, that would be an ad hominem.
Carlson
you're an
was
idiot
trying to say
because you're
something.
fat, you know, or something.
Well, an ad hominem would be.
Well, let me give it. Let me if I can give an example, because I committed this fallacy my very self a few days ago, and I wasn't really thinking when I said it, and I didn't mean it the way it was taken, but in truth, I think they were justified in calling it an ad hominem, and that was somebody had posted an article on from this guy who wrote that he's got this website. He talks about the theory of light, the rope theory of light. Bill Gates is his name, right? And they put this out there, and I made a comment, and I didn't actually mean it to imply that his argument was invalid, okay? But I didn't actually say enough, I guess. But my sorry about that. So when they put this out there, my first response was, I said, yeah, we're gonna take physics advice from a guy who was convicted of the CIA of espionage and mail fraud. Now, you know, so there's, I mean, okay, so that was an ad hominem, because that's got nothing to do with whether or not his argument on physics is right or wrong. That's just the fact that he's, you know, a criminal. You know, so, I mean, for me, I mean, that was sort of the classic ad hominem, and I did to cover my own butt here. I didn't actually mean to imply that his physics was therefore wrong. I just meant that. You know, we're starting right off with somebody whose credibility just, you know, you don't see a lot of criminals presenting in scientific conferences these days. And so, you know, it doesn't mean he's not right, but
Somebody has fraud.
it would certainly make me start off a little more skeptical than I might otherwise.
But on the other hand, though, if you want to say that somebody's evolution argument is invalid because they had sex with a gay masseur drug dealer or something, you know.
Haggard much? Wow.
Heterosexual.
Ted Haggard is completely heterosexual. Ted Haggard is
I love that song.
But there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, this idea of being civil to people. I mean, I guess it depends on why you're in the conversation in the first place, maybe. So, I mean, at least for me, when I get into a conversation, I'm in there to explore ideas. And as long as we're civil with each other, I will stay there all day long, even if you disagree with me, and we'll talk about it, and we'll just keep drilling down and talking about it. I don't have a problem with that. But at least for me, when somebody starts doing, well, you're an idiot, or you were never really a Christian, or you're a moron, or anything like that. For me, at that juncture, it becomes a useless a gesture to try and have the conversation. So for me, that's the point at which I'm just like, whatever, fine, goodbye. Because to me that indicates a person that's not really willing or is not really interested in exploring something. They're just there to, again, like you said, to put on a show or to dig their heels in and become, immediately defensive if you disagree with them or what have you.
And that's the thing too, where I've seen plenty of debates where the person will stand down, the opposing party, while the evangelical will preach a whole sermon and take up the whole time of the debate. Oh, they love it. They wallow in it. And no way would I do that,
Yeah, well, I think that's valid too, right? I mean, I don't think that atheists or Christians, but I don't think atheists should have to be wishy-washy in the debate, nor do I think that they should have to be polite to the point of letting the other person steamroll them and not challenge what they're saying. If they're saying something wrong, then call them on it. They're saying something wrong, but you don't have to be an asshole in order to do that, I don't think.
You don't have to, but there is.
But it helps.
No, it actually can help, right? So Matt, it's kind of odd that I think it was Blinkhorn I think brought this up. He seems to be familiar with Matt Dillahunty, but he hasn't heard Matt Dillahunty's discussion about firebrands and what's the best way to advocate for atheism or positive atheism, and he's come down on the side that firebrands are also useful, right? It's obviously great to be a nice, gentle person and speak to Christians gently. That works for some people. It's also advantageous to be an asshole sometimes, because for one, other atheists and people who are on the fence might really enjoy it, and a lot of people do. And it gets real quick. The other thing is it gets attention, and it gets the name and our ideas out there. That this is the idea. This is why David Silverman is such a firebrand, and why he's always on Fox and why he's always being talked about.
And also another thing is sometimes people that are like say Matt Dillahunty, I'll just use him as an example. Sometimes on that show, he'll talk to the same person over and over and over, and the same person comes up with the same stupid argument, all the time. And Matt will try and go, no, you're wrong. Now here's where you're wrong, and check your information and this and this. And he's trying to help them through, figuring this thing out, but they refuse to listen. And every time they call back, they start up with the same argument. And you can run into that here on YouTube. People with the same argument. You present them with the evidence that will show that they're wrong and will help them work their way through this problem. And they will not take your advice. They will not read the evidence, and they will keep repeating the same thing over and over. And after a while, they start to talk to you, and you go, "Shut the hell up! You're an idiot," because they won't. You know what I'm trying to say.
It can't happen. I mean, I haven't watched the Atheist Experience in probably over a year now, because it got to the point where it's just so repetitive. It's just the same arguments over and over again.
Yeah.
That, okay, you've watched a year's worth of the show. You've pretty much seen it. I kind of miss the Stone Church crowd, though. Whatever happened to those guys?
Well, okay, I want to. Let me ask you your opinion. Okay, here's a question. I just got this mail in Google Plus just before I came into this hangout. Right, I just literally got it. Now this is a guy that I don't even really know him. I apparently a month or so ago I asked him if he would like to have a conversation sometime about his beliefs, and I haven't talked to him since. Okay. Now, and this is the first contact I've gotten back from him. This is what he says, and most of you guys know me. So, but this is what I got. He says, "Hi Carlton, I hope you're well. You stated on my post that you'd like to have a conversation with me sometime and asking if I was agreeable. Obviously I was, but all I have heard from you is in the form of posts savagely attacking anything that resembles Christianity and attacking it in a shameful way. Is this why you invited me to follow you, so you could send me stuff for no other reason than hoping or knowing it will upset?" Now, where am I supposed to go with that?
Nowhere. You can't go.
See ya.
Well, I mean, right? I don't ever think I can't. I mean, I truly, while I will on a rare occasion, I think, I will troll a little bit, but I don't think I've ever savagely attacked anybody. that I can remember. Certainly not him. I don't even, I've never even sent him a message at all. But that's the kind of thing that we get a lot of times, and I'm like, how do you engage with that kind of a person then, without, well, maybe as Seth says, without, slapping him right back?
I usually try to mirror it. Like if somebody shows up at my door and tries to push it in my face, at that point I'll just tell them I'm an atheist or agnostic atheist and get it over with, and then usually after that, you can have the real conversation. So like there's this real projected stereotype kind of thing that happens that you need to break down and get through before you can get to the real conversation. Like Carlton, I would send him back an email probably just as forceful, like being like, yeah, that was my plan all along, ha ha ha, got you almost, and then maybe he'll talk to you,
Well, okay. And again, see, maybe this is just my personality. So I basically just said savagely, really. Can't imagine what that was, and I certainly never sent anything to you personally that I'm aware of, and I just let it at that. But again, I think for me, when people start off a discussion, and I use the term loosely, that way, to me it seems like there's upfront, there's an obvious no interest here in really having a discussion. There would be no point to start it off that way, because it's obviously that's counterproductive from the get-go. I mean, it's like G-Man. I'll talk to G-Man or Vecco, but I don't start the conversation off with like, "Hi, I think you're an asshole." I mean, that's not where's that going to get us?
Yeah, I think too the people that repeatedly call into Matt's show, they're speaking to Matt's viewers after that. They're just bringing up the same thing. It's not for Matt, it's for the viewers to hear, and they believe that it's their mission, or their direction by Christianity or whatever group they're from, to put that out there, and they feel that they've done that as a witness to whatever, to his audience. Like they probably don't even go over that to talk to him, actually,
And then sometimes you'll get someone there that try to put forward conspiracy theory, and when they see that, they go, bye, click.
Yeah, that is a scary looking thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the silence from Doctor Who, I'm sure, because you can see the cut, you can see where the tie is. He's got this collar
and
all of our suits.
The tally marks in the background.
From one of the episodes from the seasons that aren't on Netflix yet.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, on Netflix tonight, new Sherlock episodes.
Nice one. Well, I like the picture.
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's why you didn't understand what I was talking about, because the silence's main feature is when you don't look at them, you can't remember them.
Oh, I see.
Which is why there's tally marks in the background, because in that episode, they put tally marks on themselves to remind themselves that they saw something.
Yeah, because they make you forget that you saw them.
Oh.
In the later episode, they become priests. So it's kind of a weird thing that they become priests because if you confess to them, you can't remember confessing, so you feel all good.
Isn't this like the Star Trek episode where they kept coming in and out of the worm? Yeah, they kept repeating the same day. It was like Groundhog Day on Star Trek, and Data made everything turn up threes so that he would recognize it the next time around the loop. Anyway, sorry.
Yep, you're not the first one to bring up Star Trek in this chat room today.
I'm going to have to rewatch The Next Generation. I haven't watched it in a while.
Actually, years before Groundhog Day was made, I actually ran into a short story in Playgirl magazine about a woman who'd been living with her boyfriend for years, and she basically wanted him to fish or cut bait. So she went to a witch and took his pants to a witch, and she put a curse on him.
Pants what?
Not another day would pass until he decided that he was either going to marry her or break up. And the guy kept reliving the same day over and over again, and eventually the couple broke up. But I just...
Oh my God! So it's true? People really do read Playgirl for the articles?
Yeah. Really wasn't all that. Yes, there. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was either that or High Times, and I was spending the weekend with my parents, and I didn't want them to know I smoked, so I went with.
So you look at Playgirl. Okay.
Yes. I mean,
They were less hung up about that.
Well,
It's one of those things.
Sitting there reading the articles, and my mother grabs the magazine, turns to the centerfold, and says, "Well, that's nothing I haven't already seen." And I'm like, "Yeah, I bought it for the articles, okay?"
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Wherever, whichever direction the oral fixation takes you. So.
But, I didn't think the centerfold was all that. The guy in the secondary spread was pretty hot, but
how much was he spreading then?
Actually, they had him running around the Mayan temples naked.
Seth, that was you, wasn't it? I remember that issue.
Well, since someone brought up Star Trek, can I tell you guys about an episode I thought was one of the most thought-provoking things I've ever seen? Period.
Rock and roll.
Okay, well, there's an episode of Voyager. I forget the name of it, but I don't know how many of you guys have actually watched Voyager, but there.
Tuvix?
Yes.
God, am I good?
There are
I
two
want a pat on the
characters,
back.
Tuvok and Neelix, and they're very different. One's a Vulcan, so all very
logical.
Yeah, logical, reserved, blah 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 blah. Neelix is like outspoken, bubbly, really happy. The complete opposite of Tuvok. Well, yeah.
I could not watch Voyager.
Okay, so anyway, they both get teleported onto the ship at the same time, but something happens, something goes wrong, and they get merged into like this new person who's a perfect combination physically and mentally of the two. And they can't figure out how to undo it, so while they're trying to figure this out, he calls himself Tuvix, a combination of the two names, and he's making relationships with the crew and discovering his own personality, his likes and dislikes and everything like that. And there comes a point where they're able to reverse the process, and Tuvix doesn't want it to go ahead because he's a new person. He has his own consciousness now. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, that is such an amazing concept, because you really are having to kill someone to resurrect, in a sense, the two component crew members. And I just thought that was such a morally challenging and moral dilemma episode. I thought it was really deep for a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
He must have been a really big guy, because the mass would have doubled.
That guy, Neelix is pretty small.
Well, okay.
Well, the mass didn't double, so there's some suspension of disbelief there.
What they did was they actually got Tuvok's character to just put on something that looked like Neelix's skin.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
I would think. See, if he was in there, if it was Tuvix, and it was like a split personality, in other words, like there were two independent personalities in one body, that would be different. But when you blended them and created a new personality, I mean, my take on that was then Tuvok and Neelix are dead. There is no bringing them back. You wouldn't kill any of your other crew members if you could bring somebody else back. So to me, it made no sense to kill Tuvix.
Yeah, well, I won't spoil the episode, but
no, don't spoil it.
Janeway made
I know.
a decision.
Nobody likes Jane. Nobody likes Janeway anyway.
Janeway was in a power struggle with V, so she shanked her.
Yeah, Janeway really, she ruined that episode. Sorry.
Oh man, every time I watch, I can't get Captain Janeway out of my head whenever I watch Orange is the New Black.
Yep.
Is she in that?
Yes.
She's
I
the
didn't
cook
even
or
realize
something,
that.
right?
I've only watched a few episodes of that. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't. She's like Gates McFadden on Next Generation, right? The Doctor. They just don't. I don't know.
Guys, did you happen to know that the character, or the woman who actually plays Seven of Nine, she actually plays Sonya Blade on a mini Mortal Kombat series on YouTube. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Sonya Blade. Yeah, you can find it.
Some weird political tie-in with Anthony Weiner, I think. It's weird. She's married to somebody who, God, I don't remember how it works. I'll look it up and tell you guys in a little bit.
There was the other one that was weird was that the woman that plays the wife of the senator on House of Cards is the same actress that played the Princess Bride.
No way.
Yes, ma'am. That conniving, sneaky bitch is the Princess Bride with the perfect breasts.
I don't think you know what you say that word so often. I don't think you know what it means.
Exactly.
The first episode of Bones I ever watched. Is Bones still on the air?
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
The first episode of Bones I ever watched. I kept expecting David Boreanaz to burst into flames in the sunlight. I could not get over him being Angel.
Oh, man.
And the thing is, I never really liked the character of Angel. I liked the peripheral characters. I didn't like him.
Cisco was another one that really, just never did anything. And his son was even worse. But Quark was awesome. Quark could have carried that whole series, and Garrick could have those two. Yeah, Voyager had to be. Voyager was in trouble when you got to bring 7 of 9 in and Q to try and get the ratings up.
Oh.
Okay, guys, have a look at this link and go to about 10 minutes and 33 seconds in.
About? You sound like Mr. Spock there. Okay.
That's her.
Really? A video game?
10 minutes and 33 seconds, huh? I'm looking. 10, that's close enough.
Commercial never got away.
Oh, yeah. That is indeed her. Seems to have lost the cool skin-tight outfit, though.
Never seen any of the Mortal Kombat movies or played the video game, so I don't get it.
Such a nerd.
I'm not sure it was worse. The Mortal Kombat.
Well, the plot device.
You don't know what's worse? What now?
I don't know. It was worse, the Mortal Kombat movie or the Dragon Ball movie.
Dragon Ball. Yeah, Dragon Ball.
I tend to not watch movies that are based on video games.
Yeah, but Dragon Ball wasn't based on a video game.
No, it was based on a video game.
But you know what's weird about the whole Dragon Ball thing is, even though Dragon Ball is not based on a video game, the video games are pretty much considered canon now.
Yeah, well, do you want to know something? The freaking Piccolo in the Dragon Ball Z movie, or sorry, the Dragon Ball movie, is fucking Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh God, really?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna watch the movie. I
Go look.
watch on James Marsters, I swear.
Just it's on IMDb. I remember looking at that going, oh no.
Oh yeah. I could spend endless amounts of time looking at it.
I got a better one for you. The guy who actually played the Doctor on Voyager,
Robert Picardo.
Robert Picardo. He actually played the witch, or the ugly hag that comes out of the water in the movie Legend with Tom Cruise.
No shit, really?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're just a fountain of cool trivia.
Yeah.
He was in one of the Gremlin movies too as a security guard, I think.
This one's even awesome. The guy who plays Odo is also the voice for the skeleton in the movie The Last Unicorn with Mia Farrow.
John, no, it's not John. It's that's Q. Odo is Renee Auberjonois. Yeah. Oh, August 29th, by the way, right, guys? Check your calendar. We all gotta send notes back and forth so we get the same rooms on the same floor at Dragon Con.
Oh, you are really working that.
I really am. We can get some people that chip in. We'll get a bigger room and get a party room going, and everybody bring their booze.
I can see the Google Plus hangout from there. Whoa!
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, right, we got to have a bunch of monitors in there, and it's got to be a Google Plus hangout for those that couldn't make it.
I think my favorite collection of, I can't believe there's all these Star Trek people in this one thing, is Gargoyles. Disney's Gargoyles.
What does Gargoyles have in it?
Well,
the voices?
I've never seen it. I'm sorry, so I've never seen it.
Okay, Disney's Gargoyles had frickin' the girl who played Troy, Diana Troy in it, she was Demona. You had Fox, which was the guy who actually played what's his face, Riker. You had freaking the guy who actually was Cisco in it. He was the Goliath.
I actually have this here somewhere. Oh God, I can't find. Wait a minute. There was this piece of trivia, but I wanna be able to give you something more than just that was trivia. Because I know Brent Spiner is doing it again, but I can't find it now. They did a Brent Spiner, Jonathan Frakes, right, Riker, Gates McFadden, the Doctor. It might have been. I don't know if Patrick Stewart was involved in this or not. I don't think so. I think Deanna was. They put together a musical group called Old Yellow Eyes. So it's sort of you're right, a spoof on Sinatra. And they're all excellent musicians and singers. They actually put out a couple albums. So they have the new one. It's called Old Yellow Eyes is Back by Brent Spiner, with Brent Spiner on the cover.
Brent Spiner's awesome. He also was in Gargoyles as well. He played that little imp that kept flickering in and out of it.
Well, I mean, Brent Spiner, I love him as an actor. I think the Star Trek episode, remember the one where the Star Trek Enterprise was sort of being regrown as sort of this ancient culture, and Brent Spiner had to play out all these different personalities who were people that had lived at that time in the city. So he had the little boy, he had the gods, he had the scared. It was just wonderful watching him go through the iterations.
Yeah, they've got some stuff on YouTube as well.
Yep. That's what I was just looking at. I was just trying to find the original. But did they actually say who's in this? Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so the cheapest copy of the CD, the Brent Spiner, is $90 on Amazon.
Good luck with that.
Okay, here it is. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I was just rare. Old Yellow Eyes is back. Don't miss this until Sunspots. Yeah, Jonathan Frakes, Michael Worf. Oh yeah, okay, Michael Dorn Worf. LeVar Burton is in there. Okay, and Patrick Stewart. Okay, I had the cast wrong. Oh, it's kind of cool. I guess I should go I should go watch the new Sherlock episodes here now. Actually, I'm watching Voyager too. My wife's never seen it, so we're starting from square one.
I actually really liked it. I watched it all on Netflix, like over maybe 6 months, 7, 8 months.
Well, I've taken her through. I mean, I don't think she ever watched the original, but I don't think I could bear to go through the original series again. So I took her through Next Generations. Then we watched Enterprise with Scott Bakula. Then we watched Babylon. Well, that wasn't really a spin-off, but Babylon 5, just to get her up to speed. And then we watched Deep Space Nine. So now we're on Voyager. You're not a complete person if you haven't seen all of those.
I'm actually going through TNG right now. I think I've seen them all before, but there may be a few I missed. But I'm just going straight through now for the first time.
I thought they did a really good job on Enterprise and going back with Scott Bakula. I'm sorry that was short-lived.
Well, I'm going to take off, Walt. Thanks for the invite to the chat. Good conversation. Take care.
Alfred, okay, take it easy, bud. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go watch a Sherlock, and then I'll drop back in later. So see y'all later, and thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. And then there were 7.
1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. What was that? 13 Little Indians.
I'm not an Indian.
We said, and then there were 7, and it seemed like that was one of the lines in the movie. Is there was 13, then 12, 10, 9, whatever.
So, there's 8 now.
As they got killed off.
Hylas is bad.
Hello, Hylas.
I was just going to throw this out there right quick. Anyone into Akira?
Yeah.
I'm Hylas' mortal enemy.
Do what? No, there was a group of people that got together and made a
mortal enemies because I worship the wrong goddess or something.
Oh, this was Akira. It was made from it was an anime made from a manga.
Mm-hmm.
There were some people that got together and did a kind of a trailer But they put a lot of work in. They're not doing the movie, but it'd be cool if they had the money for it. Let's see.
Biggest failure on the planet for a movie, Avatar, live action, M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay, why is it?
M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
No, M. Night Shyamalan. I refuse to say it any other way. Shame. Shame upon him.
I just threw it over there on the side if anyone wanted to check it out later.
Yeah, let's see what Heavy Hauler wants. System looking at your
Harvey Reginald Spector. You're hereby summoned. You gotta be kidding me. You speaking me? Oh, yeah.
What was that?
I guess it's on.
Okay.
I guess it is. This is gonna be a street fight. And there's only gonna be...
Yeah, the only anime I could ever really get into was Cowboy Bebop.
Really?
I've never watched anime, but I actually have the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack. I've never seen the show.
Actually, pretty good.
I think my
It's
favorite
really
was the
sad.
Ghost of the
It's been on
Shell.
a little too long, though.
It's very sad.
Great
Cowboy
soundtrack.
Bebop is commonly referred to and known as like one of maybe the greatest and definitely the best received anime in basically in history, except for maybe some movies. When it comes to TV, it's regarded as probably the best.
I got into Full Metal Alchemist for a while just because the channel was showing it either right before or right after Cowboy Bebop.
Have you seen the new one, Brotherhood? It's flippin' awesome. Hello?
Apparently nobody has.
Yeah, wait.
I haven't watched Brotherhood all the way yet. I've seen parts of it, and it's really good.
It's flippin' awesome. I watched that like in 1 week. It was flippin' awesome.
I'm going to drop out for a while. I have this urge to go chant in Sanskrit. I'll probably be back in a little bit.
Why don't you just let us watch that?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I have one quick question. On your right back up there in the corner, is that an Oriental umbrella or something?
yeah. Yeah, that is, well, it's a
With a shot, with a,
parasol.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It's an
Yeah,
Oriental.
that's
Oriental.
actually, that's my parrot's play area over there.
Okay.
I hit
That's what I thought it was.
and his things that he likes to climb around on are a little unsightly, so I put a room divider in front of it. And he goes, it's like he has his own room. He comes out and hangs out, sits on my shoulder in the morning. Then after a while, he wants to go back in there and hang out, and then he usually wants to come out in the late afternoon and evening and hang out with me again.
Oh, okay.
But,
I was noticing some of the, not to be nosy, but I was noticing some of the stuff behind you, and I was thinking it had an Oriental look to it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got that. Let's see. You probably can't see him this far away, but yeah, no, you're not going to be able to see him. I've got my Shrine to Lord Kartikeya over there. He got me my apartment. And then, of course,
Oh, okay.
presiding deity. Let's see if I can, see if I can get this camera so you can get a good view.
It looks like something is grabbing her in the wrong area.
I think I saw Elvis in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, when she's got a skirt made out of human arms, you kind of get that impression. And then, of course, there's the Lord of my desk.
Ganesh.
Yeah. Now, I'll be back in a little while. Just
Okie dokie.
Have fun chanting.
You take care.
I'm
Y'all
gonna go
bet.
grab Huh?
Had y'all been in here for a good while already? Because I'm pretty sure when I came in, it was y'all had been here for a while.
Yeah, I've been here for a wee while. I'm considering going and grabbing myself a can of Coca-Cola.
Y'all take care. I'm.
Yeah.
Bye. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab that Coke.
Trying to refill the ranks, eh, Ruben? Is there supposed to be an official topic to this hangout? Okay.
And now I'm back.
Just regular Coke?
No, I got Skinny People Coke, Coke Zero.
Oh, I love Coke Zero.
I can't, I'm trying to lose weight. I don't want to drink Fat People Coke because it's calories I can't burn.
Yep. The difference between zero and what's a normal Coke? 100 and something?
A lot more than that, I think.
Really?
It's like
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's like 300 or something. Hold on. 330 milliliters, I think it is.
Oh, I mean the calorie count.
Yeah, of Coke calories. I think it's something like
182.
Yeah, 139 apparently on the Coca-Cola can site.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, this is 1 cup medium fast food, 21 fluid ounce.
Okay, 139 calories for a can of normal Coke, and
Yeah.
can of Coke 0 calories. That is not technically true. It's technically 0.5 calories.
Well, it's negligible.
Mm-hmm. Delicious.
What is a capture smile?
Capture smile. I think it takes a photograph of the room.
Oh, it says you turned it on.
Yeah, I don't know how I did that. So what is everybody doing today? Whatever day it is for you.
I'm not doing anything. I got a 3-day weekend. I've just been lazing around.
Lovely.
Yeah, I had a week off. Yeah, I had a week off, so like it's coming towards the end and feeling sad. So
I've been watching Sopranos. Another pretty good show.
Oh my good God, a friend of mine is watching Rambo.
oh, the last one.
I have no idea. He's just going on about how he wants to do a series marathon. These are the guys that I actually play like Battlefield 3 with, so.
I love that game.
I like BFFs on YouTube by Machinima. That's hilarious.
I don't think I've seen that.
Hold on, let me educate you on this.
The heck is this new Battlefield Hardline thing? I'm on the Origin store. Oh wow, Battlefield 4 is on sale. Maybe I should actually get it.
Is that on Origin?
Yeah, it's only $25 right now.
Wait, here we go. Okay, so here I'm gonna link this to you.
I've heard Battlefield 4 is like so buggy though. I don't know if they fixed a lot of it.
There you go. Look at that.
Wait, can PC players actually play with console players?
Yeah, they can, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I hate to diminish the group even further, but I think I'm going to go watch some Sopranos again, so I'll catch you guys later.
No problem. Take care.
I'll catch you later.
Bye.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna dodge too. It was nice seeing you guys. Bye, Reuben. Bye, Seth. Bye, Green.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
No problem.
Yeah, I didn't have too much contribute to the group because basically I was busy before. Next time I will have more input within this group. So, all right, bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
See ya. All right, bye-bye. Hey, thank you, Ruben, for the group. Thank you for inviting.